Here it is, the match you've all been waiting for, the finals of the Countdown Cup. We got Philadelphia Fusion up against the San Francisco Shock. My name is Jaws, and I've got Hex along with me for this ride, and we'll see you through the entire thing. It's going to be a good one, Hex. Of course, the semi-finals. If you've only just joined us, you probably watched the semi-finals. They were pretty damn close, and it was a very exciting game to watch. Alarm Hisu popping off on the side of Philly, taking down Paris. It's been looking good, and let's have a look how both teams got here. However, like I said, semi-finals, we just saw them. They just came and went. Both 3-1s as well, despite a lot of 5-game predictions, I think, from a lot of people.
It's all chalk on the board as the top 4 teams in North America made it to the semifinals. And this was my prediction for the grand finals, Philadelphia versus San Francisco Shock. Philadelphia looking to get those coveted bonus wins that you get for winning one of these tournaments. It is our last tournament of the year as the clock ticks closer to midnight in our Countdown Cup. We will have a champion here today. You get 3 extra wins for winning it all. 2 extra wins. Of course, San Francisco has accumulated bonuses. And then you get some straight cash. Homie has a nice incentive on top of it as well. Both these teams very, very deserving. They've been at the top of North America since the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and Philadelphia Fusion, it must feel pretty good to get revenge, right? They did end up losing in the finals to Paris in the last tournament that we did have, and coming out with such a ridiculous performance as well. Alarm and Hisu just absolute gods on the Widow and the Ana. Like, there were so many 6 sleeps. Of course, Alarm did get the MVP last series, so we're expecting to kind of see that roll onto this one, that is for sure. And there is a big gap, Hex, I will say, between the top 3 teams and the rest of the league, it feels like. Mayhem definitely a solid 4th currently, but Philly, Shock, and Paris, they are just so good right now in this meta. It's just insane seeing them face off against each other. I thought it was going to go to 5 maps in the semis between Paris and Philly. It didn't end up going that way, but it was still closer than it definitely appeared on paper.
It's just really impressive what Philly's able to do. We think so much about Shock and their versatility and the depth of their roster, but now Philadelphia is winning matches without Carpe in the mix. And so if you cast your vote early for the T-Mobile MVP, well, then you may be regretting that now because Carpe might not even be the MVP of his own team. Those sleeps really turned it around. You think about Numbani, where it's all going completely bad, and then Matt and Mitch brought it up. Like, you just need a play to turn around your mental and get it going. And the sleeps on Nano Genji, I think Philadelphia is one of the best anti-Genji teams in the entire league. They made Sparkle look bad. Sparkle's one of the best Genjis Overwatch has ever seen. Ever. And then he had to go to Doomfist. He's good on that, but it's not the meta. Then he had to go to Tracer. It just wasn't awesome. Philly's defense is great. Here is what Philly's starting lineup is going to be. There is no fish on the menu. Carpe is going to start on the bench. Hisu and Ivy are going to continue to play on the damage rolls. Sato and Fury will run up the tanks. And of course, the dynamic support duo of the Philadelphia Fusion, Funny Astro and Alarm.
Yeah, it was fairly interesting earlier on in this month and in this meta too. They actually had Alarm on the Brig, and now he can actually get on the Ana and he get on the Batiste because they've clearly put a lot of work in Astro playing the Brigitte instead. Of course, he can jump over to the Lucio when needed, but Astro's Brig just wasn't that great at all, and it's good to see that now Alarm can be on a really high, like heavy-hitting, support character, and having it be a Ana, that's even better because they can set up Ivy for these massive blades as well with the Nano Boost. Of course, they are going up against San Francisco Shock, just a ridiculous team to face realistically, and I thought there wasn't going to be a point where Shock weren't in the finals, except obviously last time around. In fact, the not the main melee, the Summer Showdown, I was extremely surprised not to see Shock there. Of course, Paris didn't end up winning as Shock lost to Paris in semis, but Shock are never a team you should really sleep on, really ever. They may have 1 or 2 just games where they look a bit meh, right? Or maybe the tournament when they lose in semis, but they will always consistently be top 3.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of this is the performance from their damage dealers in the hit scan specifically. Of course, the starters on your screen coming up, it's going to be Ons. It just went nuts. You can't really even say anyone's a better Widow than Ons. Maybe people are on the same level. I doubt it. Striker has been a god-tier Tracer, an MVP candidate in Season 1, if you remember. His Tracer was that good. He carried Boston. Smurf, kind of maybe a snub from our MVP list because he's been playing main tank great. Choyobin, Finals MVP. You can't say enough about him. And then the support line of Violet and Twilight. I mean, they have role stars all over this team. They have 2 role stars sitting on the bench in Moth and Super who might see some playtime today depending on how the maps sequence themselves out. But there is not a single weak spot on this San Francisco starters or roster or organization, really.
I think the only weak spot there is Fury's camera, which is very blurry. But I do promise you he is there in some form. But Busan is going to be our first map. Of course, having Arns in and Hisu in makes a whole lot of sense for us to have a pause, apparently. But it makes a whole lot of sense for Arns and Hisu to be on the Widowmakers. And what better place to have it on Busan? We're actually heading to downtown as our first stage in this one as well. We are just briefly pausing, of course. We will hopefully get back into series rather soon.
Well, I mean, it is interesting because I think we're definitely going to see some Widowmaker, and Hisu has really stepped up to the plate. I thought we were going to get treated to the epic Carpe versus Ans Widow battle, but Hisu hit some shots, man, in that last set. So you'd imagine that they're going to be playing either Ashe or Widow. Now, the question is, what do you run with it? So is Striker going to go to Tracer? Or, like, if Hisu starts struggling in that long-range DPS matchup, does Ivy go over to the Genji to try to help him out? I think Philadelphia right now obviously has a Genji player in the lineup that they can switch to, whereas San Francisco really does not. San Francisco's damage kind of indicates what they're going to run as a team, because you'd imagine if they had any notion of running a Mei or a Genji that Rascal would be in this lineup.
Yeah, it's almost calculated and telegraphed even, sorry.
Yeah.
It's like, well, Arns in, okay. Long-range hit scan, cool. Striker, well, he's going to play Tracer, most probably. Looks like Arns is going to just TP everybody forward. I want to see how they're going to play this one too, because this is definitely a more dive-centric map, I feel. And as soon as I saw the people load into the lobby, I'm like, okay, so they want to definitely put Sado on Winston. They also want to put Serve on Winston, because that just recently, even just looking at the semi-finals, it's just been ridiculous. The Primal Rage is insane. The amount of space that both Sado and Smurf are able to create for people like Striker and Arns is just also ridiculous. Sado
slept.
Yeah, slept right out of the gate. Okay.
Well, Philadelphia's running something weird here. I mean, they've got the Reaper and a Genji. You don't see that together a whole lot. So running the shooty shotguns. More of a brawl style.
Sado's job here is actually just kind of sit on Arns too, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult, I feel. As soon as Arns manages to set up, Hisu can't really deal with him. It's going to be up to Ivy and Sado to do that. A little bit of a flank here from the Fusion, stopping the shot running to their spawn and playing the spawn game. Smurf ends up going down first, though. Ivy picking up first blood. However, shot end up capping the point. Arns is still sitting on the high ground, but not in the position he really wants to be. He's actually at the back of the point, but you can see even Ivy's kind of scared to actually peek him. He does have Violet and Twilight sitting around him as well. But Smurf coming back will, you know, delay the inevitable at this point. Arns does end up falling down, but Ivy falling next is not a good sign for the Fusion. They do manage to find the reflip, and in fact, a very early coalescence from Alarm to try and turn the tide of war. Even a nano boost being invested here by the Shock as well to try and get back onto this point. Please, Hero Sado, he's just so low. As soon as he hits the Primal Rage, though, he's going to get slept and grabbed as well. They're investing so much into Sado. He gets naded, but he's going to be able to get out alive. He had 1,000 HP. This fight is still going on. Another Graviton Surge is sent out, and Hisu cleans up the rest. Striker and Twilight fall, and the Fusion now grasping on control of the point still. 30% in building. Shot may have taken that point first. Although I say that, Astro and Smurf end up finding boots, and they're just going to go back in with the beat. Even the blade from Ivy. This fight hasn't stopped yet.
Well, the blade into the beat is great. When you're at low numbers like that, you know that you need to protect your Genji. The bubble comes in huge again.
Arns comes back on the Kree, and now, well, if you're Sado, you might as well stall for some additional time. They eventually kill him. Oh my word, that was a good 60% fight almost. Just adding both of them together. Arns, I can imagine, is probably going to just stick on the Kree here to try and counteract Hisu, but wow, what a beginning engagement.
I think you're going to see a lot of fights like that. This is an unstoppable force versus an immovable object, because both these teams feel they can win when they're down heroes. Philadelphia has one of the highest win rates when they go down a person, and San Francisco, for some reason, can win 2v6 fights against every team in the league.
Speed bootness to shoot shotguns into the back line. You've got to be careful for Striker. You can't poke as easily here because you can get punched by Hisu so easily. Coalescence along with the dive onto the back line. Arns and Striker are in trouble. Healing is just so great from the Coalescence and forcing everybody back. You can see them all piling up in that corridor now. Astro finds a boop as well in the midst of the chaos, and Hisu sitting on with the Death Blossom. Arns in trouble, and Hisu just playing Doorman right now. Graviton Surge onto the point, but no follow-up, so Fury's going to stay alive, but not for long as Striker throws in the Pulse Bomb. It's still fairly even, but Philadelphia Fusion are going to be able to come out on top as Sado kills both tanks. Arns is just going to go down as well. The Shock gained 65% there on that fight, and now the Fusion controlling again. They're going to match him in just a moment.
Yeah, I mean, Philadelphia's support line is just much more conducive to running initiations than the San Francisco Shock is. San Francisco, a much more defensive support line, so you're seeing boosts in, and the big benefit you get from the Moira is being able to get Coalescence so quickly and fire and forget it and initiate with it. It's not a defensive ultimate necessarily for the supports, which a lot of them are. Rally comes in.
Yeah, Primal Rage used by Sado. They can use the Coal and the Blade. It might not be too bad at all. Sado gets slept too. Oh no, someone please help him. The Blade's going to come in as well as the Coalescence. Sado is going so low. He got anti-naded in that small room, so he couldn't even pick up the Mega Health Pack. The Blade didn't really get too much, but Fusion just need to buy time. Alarm and Sado do end up going down. It's now Hisu just to scurry back to his spawn. They kill off Arns, and Ivy is still fighting in the front line, but Twilight's got all the protection he needs, and a little bit of firepower as well, as Ivy does end up going down, and Shock reclaim control of the point.
Well, Philadelphia does a good job there of just running it up to 96 and not burning ults there towards the end. I think actually they're better off having Ivy not get that kill onto Twilight, because I think that might have been the re-engagement kind of button there. But now Philadelphia is going to have Graviton, Barrier, and the Death Blossom here. Death Blossom is going to be difficult to get value out of with Shield Bash, with Sleep, and with the Flashbang. See if they can actually get something to work here. Grab in.
There's the grab. Oh, Hisu and Fury just melt Choi. Oh, the Death Blossom in the front as well. That's 2 kills for Hisu. They claim the point. Oh, the Primal Rage from Smurf to try and bash everybody away. The flip comes through from the Fusion. Can anybody from the Shock touch? It's going to be one person at least to trigger OT, but can they get back? Yes, they can, but Smurf, with no Primal Rage left, isn't going to survive too long against Hisu. A Pulse Bomb gets thrown in as well, but even Hisu with a very aggressive TP forward. Arms with the High Noon to spread everybody from the point, but it doesn't matter. Their Coalescence is going to help them finish this one off, and downtown belongs to the Fusion.
It's a really interesting composition from Philadelphia, and I think it's just really smart. They know that San Francisco wants to run dive, especially on control maps. When you see Smurf in, you know that the Winston's going to be there, and there's really no better counter to a Winston than having a Reaper of your own, the giant hitboxes, the straight brawl-up style, and then it's almost just like an old Soul Orb. Like, Winston's there, and you're just gaining health by plunking him away. A great style there, and Smurf, well, he straight up was not having a good time.
Yeah, it always kind of sucks when you're running into the Reaper, because you end up going in the bubble, you're like, haha, I'm safe, and then Reaper just two-shots the bubble almost, and then just kind of walks towards your face. Plus, one headshot with the Hellfire shotgun's really close up with all the pellets hitting, you almost die, so yeah, it can be rather punishing. Reaper also with the ability to escape too. Fusion still sticking with his comp, although they're running the Wrecking Ball this time around instead. A lot more disruption either.
It's going to be Ivy versus Ons, but it's Genji versus Widow instead. But someone has to check Ons. You can't let him free fire.
No, definitely not. It's going to sit on him, I can imagine. Oh, or Sada's going to do just that. Look at the protection, though, they're throwing onto Ons. They know if they keep him alive and give him the space, he can get the work done. One of the sharpest shooters, not only in the West, but just, you know, Watch in general. Anton Sniper, he's got that name for a reason. Isu's already burned the rate form here, so he's going to have to play a little bit more safe, and so does Astro. Arns was almost mid-air, it looked like there, and he hit the headshot. That's a good start. Dueling out with the Moira, not something you want to do unless you're behind a shield. Oh, Ivy may have taken out Violet, but it's all over. Like, Arns is on fire currently. He's warmed up in the semi-finals, and now he's clicking the heads. They claim control of the point first.
And it's not like Philadelphia doesn't know that this is coming, and they're sending people after it, but it's essentially Ivy and Sato trying to take down 6 people in the form of a sniper, because San Francisco's giving all the support in the world to Ons. These immortality fields are coming down. The Discord is going on ham as soon as he comes in. Everybody is playing around Ons. They understand that this map can be decided by a Widowmaker and a Widowmaker alone. And despite Philadelphia, oh my god!
Oh my god. Yep, well there it is. You reset. There's literally nothing you can do.
You don't have enough healing to do anything here. Like, you just don't.
Oh, strike. Oh no, he's minus 1 HP. Someone please heal him. There we go, nice one. Okay, so you go for the reset again, but Arnt's going to be able to get sights up here rather shortly, Hex.
Yeah, and now he's going to know when he's getting dived, and the rest of his team's just going to be there again, so it's absolutely no worries. Also, Striker out in front of him is a great move.
What? Solo was in the back line that entire time. 3 people surrounding Violet wasn't enough to actually save it. The power driver with the mine. Sado now just paying attention to Arns, or at least trying to. Now he hasn't got the protection that he really wants. Twilight unleashes the window, but he ends up going down. San Francisco Shock, it's okay to lose the point here, to be fair. You're up to 86% and a little bit more. Shock are more than happy with that. Coming into the next fight, they have Supercharger. They're going for the Flux too. Aren't making a couple of switches, though. It's changing over to the Kree now.
Okay, the McCree helps a lot against a Reaper and a Genji. Of course, Flashbang is something you think about a lot, but both of those heroes, I mean, you hit him with a single headshot, and then you're going to bait out deflect, you're going to bait out dash away, and also hitting a Reaper with a headshot, you can also bait out raid form. So, yes, Flashbang is good against those heroes, but single shots from Ons will also shut them down. Really
early coalescence here, but Sato actually went all the way into the back line and got insta-killed. Immortality Field's already been used, and Choi just kills 2 people. Now, look at all the ults they have. They can just throw everything here at once. They're going to go for the flank, kill off Alarm as he's already used Fade. The Mystery Blade coming out from Ivy ends up going down. Twilight Striker just fill up the kill feed, and Shock find the flip. 93% now for the Shock, and they still have not only a pulse bomb, but they have the Flux as well. It seems almost impossible now for them to lose this. Sato dies before he can even get to the point. Violet with a Discord Orb, a halt, a rock, and that was it. Arndt just finished him off with a final shot, and they're going to tie up Busan.
Hi, we talk about how these are the best teams in North America, and sometimes when you watch them and the switches they make, the adjustments they make mid-map, it does seem like San Francisco and Philadelphia are playing chess when everyone else is playing checkers. And just the insta-switches, knowing how things are working out for your team and what needs to be fixed, what's the counter, what do you anticipate, like the film study is there. Both these teams seem super prepared, 1-to-1 on our first control map, and man, I hope we go to 7 today. That's all I ever hope for, is some good Overwatch.
Yeah, don't forget, this is a best of 7.
First to 4, we could go to 8, 9.
If they just continually draw. But signs point to no on that one, unfortunately, yeah, 'cause it's not a UK versus South Korea in the World Cup again. Stunning. Look how much they're putting into Arns at this point. They're just helping him set up on the high ground just permanently, and they're actually just going to do a little bit of a switcheroo. Now as they do swap sides of the map, as Philadelphia Fusion know that they can't really give Arns the space, but they're not really given a choice in this matter. It's literally just like they move one side and Shock moves the other. They move that side and then Shock then rotates again. You can see it right here. The point does end up getting capped by the Shock. Fusion have a little bit more point presence though with this May from Ivy, but now Arns can set up in the back line, and if you don't pay attention to him, he's going to start clicking heads, and it's going to be up to Hisu to try and chunk him out from afar, but it's just the hardest thing to do with a McCree.
Philadelphia is giving Ons a ton of respect, and well-deserved, because they are just sitting behind pillars. No one is even peeking.
There's ring around the rosy, Hex.
They can't get in, though.
I mean, he's got a Lucio in Astro to try and charge forwards. There's the wall also. The Immortality Field gets used to try and save Smurf. It ends up going down, but they still manage to navigate themselves to the high ground without losing anybody. One big cooldown down. Oh, a headshot onto Arns, and Hisu finishes it up. The Coalescence is going to be good as well to end this fight. That's what they really needed, this bunker strategy from the Shock, just protecting the President Arns. It's only going to work for so long. As soon as Fusion gets ults online, yeah, speed boost, Coalescence, and then Ivy going for the flank. They managed to cap the point as well, but Shock with not a bad time at all. 47% already built up.
Well, at some point with a Lucio, they were going to catch up to them. Ivy was able to put down a nice wall, and it forced everybody to stay around to try to keep the tanks alive. And then after that, a nice icicle headshot and a cleanup onto Ons. And with the raid boss down, Philadelphia boosts in and cleans it up. Striker going down early. That's a loss you can afford to take and still try to push in.
He's back momentarily. Just, on the flank alone. Can't hear Striker. That's, of course, Striker's crouching, but obviously we can see, as we do have X-ray vision. It's a window open fairly early, however, it's just going to get walled off, and both the tanks are in trouble. Break the pillars, you should be okay. Still using that window to good effect, however, the Blizzard is going to come through, matching with the Transcendence. A big shadow in the front. That Transcendence is going to run out sometime shortly. A huge pin onto Arns. That was just a pure flowchart there, just waiting for that Blizzard to come out, and then they trans, and then guess what? We got a shadow to follow up. Normally it's pretty tough, you know, going against double shields, but Sato makes it work still. He does end up going down himself, but Astro can taxi him back with the Lucio.
All right, so double shields, different variations on both sides for San Francisco. They're going to be running in Orisa. Philadelphia is, of course, on the Reinhardt. It allows them to rotate and try to cover the double shield entrances a little bit easier. Philadelphia also with a little bit better shield crack, but not by much.
Hisu missed! Hisu missed! He's going to die to flames! Oh, he does. He dies to the dynamite. They end up trading, however, in an early flux from Fury to kill off Choi. Philadelphia Fusion still in a good position. And 80% on the board as well, Hex. So Shock are going to be able to come back and answer switch over to the Emergency Widow. He needs one pick in this fight, and it could be all theirs.
Double support ults, though, for Philadelphia. They have been holding on to these resources. What a rock!
Oh, well, this is going to come out farther soon as well. In fact, all support ultimates have been thrown in. Arns manages to snipe alarm. Coalescence not available anymore, but Hisu manages to take him out. He's on the flank this whole time. The High Noon has been used. He's got the rocket. Hisu, God, on the sidelines, takes the 2v1, and the Philadelphia Fusion will go one map up in the series.
Hisu takes a bit of a siesta at the end of that one. Well earned. If you took the nameplate off, you would think that was Carpe. That is the depth of the Philadelphia Fusion team that they've waited all year to be able to flex on the different compositions. And, you know, Philadelphia, it looked not great early on because they were just playing so close together behind shields constantly until they were able to finally close the distance, take Ons out of the fight. Hisu and Ivy showed up big there, and it's just the support ults at the end to save them from the flux to make sure they can close it out with Coalescence.
I mean, that was the one pick that they needed. I said Arns needed something. Alarm pops Cole, and Arns pops Alarm's head, and it was like, wow, this is perfect, because now you only have Lucio, the beat came through, and then Hisu just 2v1s. Not only kills Arns, who was on the flank of his life, but then kills off the Sigma too. What more can you ask for from your McCree, really? We're going to jump to a quick break, guys. Do not go anywhere. We've got map number 2 on your screen soon.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile. And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. The Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back. Map number 2 is going to be Kings Row and a couple of swap-ups for the San Francisco Shock. You know, you can do that if you're the Shock, Hex. Just sub out a few godlike players and just have a couple more come in. We got Rascal, we got Super coming in, and we got Moth.
Yeah, Super and Moth, role stars from last year in their respective roles. Of course, Moth always known for his Lucio, also very good Mercy. Probably coming in to play the Brigitte here, although I could see some Lucio considering they are bringing Super, their Reinhardt specialist, in, kind of zoom the Rhine in, just start slamming away at the hammer. And then Rascal, an MVP candidate in his own right, had he played a little more consistently this year, he's going to come in, which makes me think they want to run the Genji. Kings Row is a great map for both of these teams. Both of these teams have only lost once this year on Kings Row. The San Francisco Shock have accumulated 8 wins, whereas Philadelphia has accumulated 5. This is obviously the San Francisco Shock's map pick, and it is no surprise going to Kings, where they kind of have just their own brand of Overwatch here.
Yeah, I like the fact they're keeping Arns in as well, because Widowmaker can be so effective, especially going into like last point.
Yeah.
First point as well, if you can set up a nice little, not even a little flank, just get on the high ground. If you just unimpeded, uninhibited from just kind of sitting there, hey, you can just start clicking heads, right? I like the fact that they're bringing Rascal in too for the Genji. It's been quite interesting with the Shock over the last couple of weeks where they haven't always played the Genji. They've obviously played Striker with the Tracer, and I always thought in the back of my head, if your team is got a good Tracer on your lineup, and I think a lot of teams do currently have, I think it's always been kind of worthwhile, if your Genji isn't great, just to put him on Tracer instead, because it does aid a little bit more to the backline damage, and you can, if the enemy team is running a Zen, it's much easier to wonk them a Zen than it is a Moira, for example, or the Brig, and you can kind of win the fight from there, rather than running like a mediocre Genji. Although, of course, Rascal, not mediocre in any sense of the word. It's been just interesting to see how Shock have dealt with this meta and them playing to their strengths. So, just a small thing to think about.
Rascal almost deadlifted on Hanamura. I mean, that's how good his Genji was there. So, I mean, I wouldn't sleep on the Genji. Also, it really helps out that if you do end up losing the long-range hit scan battle, whether that's Widow versus Ashe or Ashe versus Ashe, that you still have an option to get up there. I agree with you that, I mean, I want to run Tracer on every map, no matter the situation. But given the verticality on most of the parts of Kings Row, even just small ledges, trying to get a Tracer to deal with an Ashe or a Widow just takes too long. And you kind of need the Genji there for the deflect, for the long-range damage that you can put in and kind of check them as well. So I think it's a good pick, and also it allows you to maybe run a Mei if you get a pretty good first hold on Archway. Mei can be devastating in that situation, which I think is why Ivy's also staying in the game. So very similar styles for both of these squads as we come out the gates.
TP forward from Arns. Oh, they're going to do the wall TP.
Super high
No
ground.
wall TP. Yeah, so they obviously saw the fusion there, so they were trying to set up the wall TP, but you don't want to just jump into the fusion, otherwise your TP is going to get destroyed, and there's going to be like 2 people actually going across.
Hello there.
Okay, so it's all about the walls here from Rascal and Ivy. Depends if they want to drop. Okay, they do actually decide to drop here, and this is going to be a good position for Rascal to actually be in. A funny Astral already goes down. Oh my god, this is going to be a roll now. Yeah, there's actually nothing you can do. Alarm is in big trouble. Luckily, Rascal had to reload. He's going to block as well and stop all that heals coming through. There is no way, if you're the Fusion, if you make it back into this one, unless Sado hits something actually crazy, but it's looking rather unlikely.
If they can touch.
Maybe a third. Nope. No touch. What a quick point A from Shock there.
Well, I mean, it was Alarm won his 1v1 against Rascal up top, which I thought might be the swing back, but they were just so low that you don't want to put your Reinhardt on the point in that scenario. They'd rather just have everyone at full health, because San Francisco Shock, once they get rolling, are just an unstoppable force. So you don't want to be in a position to let San Francisco just roll through the streets phase on you. You want to be able to at least get a single fight here, and had they fought there, they'd be in big trouble.
Wow. Okay, 3-man gank squad there at the top. They use the wall a little bit more defensively. They're low right on the payload. Oh, Ivy. If he manages to get Super here, it's going to be good. He does manage to freeze him, and Rascal does end up going down. They're kind of split, but this Coalescence is actually doing a lot of work. Sado's got the Shadow still, and they can now play this Arch, or at least try to. Rascal, of course, not being alive, and Ivy being just existing is good enough. Moth ends up dying to the Venom Mine of all things, but it should be okay for the time being. The Fusion are going to get fluxed, and holding the corner is going to be good, but Super with the perfect charge to finish off Sado, and now they just control the payload. Shock somehow, again, winning these fights, even though a key player in pushing the cart through the streets, the Mei, ends up going down first. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, but it was a nice trade because they're able to take out Hisu during that fight. Yes, Hisu got a Venom Mine kill on a Moth. I'm sure his teammates won't let him live that one down. But that means that Ans doesn't have to worry about about anything at all. And Philadelphia is going to have to always play around those sightlines. They have to back up. San Francisco just continues to push over them. And now Rascal is going to have the Blizzard ready. Both teams exchanging the infrasites.
Yeah, I don't know if that infrasites was really worth because they were trying to set up something on the flank. Of course, the payload will be contested a couple of meters before it hits. There's going to be a beat available for Bunny Astro now. They're going to go on this flank anyway. They don't really care at all. A charge from Sato to try and get out alive. He's already dies. There's the Blizzard insta-kill onto Sato 2. The Flux might have been good if they could take down the tanks, but Super is alive and well on this payload. What a ridiculous time now for the Shock to push onto this last point. 5 whole minutes. They haven't got too much left to really work with, and Philadelphia Fusion, on the other hand, do. They've got Blizzard coming up, they got the Shatter, Beat, and the Coalescence. Even Hisu switching over to a more brawl style. He is losing these 1v1s against Arns Hex, so not too much of a shock here.
Well, now the biggest issue right now is that Philadelphia has absolutely no one to touch Ans. No one has high ground, no one can do anything unless you want to send your Lucio after it, which is not usually a great idea. Great wall, though.
Well, their sense of urgency pretty high there, and they do make themselves known on the payload. A perfect pin onto Super. Just escorting him away from the rest of his team, and a Coalescence as well is going to kill off Violet. That was really nice wraparound there from the Fusion. They saw how Shock were playing, and they keep doing this. The Shock will split up with 3x3, 3 on the payload, and 3 go for this flank, and Fusion go, okay, if we have Lucio, we're going to speed boost onto the point, wall your Sigma, and then he's going to instantly die.
Yeah, the only bad thing for Philadelphia is they ended up layering support ultimates over each other, but it does allow them to hold this corner. The last place to fight before last point, but still, Ans is going to be a problem.
Yeah, that was a very close. Just getting instantly killed. Oh, that Coalescence is doing so much work, actually. Sato is going so low. You can see the pressure, actually. He might not even survive this. The Coalescence did the damage, and there you go. A hammer swing, instantly killing off Sato. Alarm's going to fall down as well. They're going to hit the Shatter. Fury goes down. It could be big. He has this Flux coming back, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to even touch the payload. Funny Astro finds the boop onto Rascal, but they still have 5 people pushing it. The Blizzard from Rascal as he comes back is going to be good. A big boop as well, and Astro ends up going down into the pit. Moth the better Lucio in this situation, and Ans has got free reign over this point as well on the Widowmaker. Choi kills off Sato, and it's only a couple of meters before they land it in on third point, and Ivy's dead too. Ans is setting up. He's got so much space, it's disgusting. Alarm's going to go down as well. And Hisu gets headshot when he uses the Death Blossom. That's the only thing he can really do to turn the tides. 3 minutes in the time bank for the Shock as they complete King's Row.
Just once the Shock gets rolling, it is impossible to stop them. And even when you think you've stabilized, if they have 3 people up, they will commit ultimates. They will go after you. And I think no matter what, I think Philadelphia made those switches compositionally to go to the Reaper because, look, we can't stop the front line and Ans at the same time. We got to decide to try to stop one, and then hopefully Ans can't be impactful if he doesn't have the front line up, because then our tanks will have shields up. So they chose to try to win the front line battle. It didn't necessarily work out, and Ans was all alone, just clicking heads, doing whatever he wanted. Ivy goes down at 90% on his Blizzard, which is a saving grace defensive ultimate.
See, this is the thing, right? You have Hisu. Oh, he double headshot as well. Okay. Pretty nice. This is the thing. Who can test Ans in this situation? Is it Ivy with the right clicks with the May Icicles? Is it Hisu? Can he get a TP up? Well, neither of them really. I mean, you need to focus on the frontline war because your tanks are just going to get rolled over. The best thing about the May is the fact that she can put up a wall. Your Reinhardt can start swinging in, maybe go for a charge. And then you have the Reaper, which is also there to break shields. Like you mentioned, Hex, pure brawl in the front line. But Ans,
you're banking on winning the front line. Yeah, they made the call that they weren't going to win the Widow battle, and you're not going to win it when Ans is hitting 50% of his crit shots. 1 out of every 2 shots was a headshot from Ans.
He's too good at the video game. He's too good. Not the short player history as well.
Hey, Echo! I predicted Echo. Okay. I'm trying to make Echo a thing so I can stop playing Genjis in every ranked game.
Just you. It's just Hex.
Just me.
That's it. It's just Hex. He's forcing.
No, but actually,
the
I talked about this on the pre-show that Rascal does have the Echo. We've seen a little bit of Echo in APAC, and I mean on Lijiang Tower we see it a little bit too. it can be pretty solid, especially if the other team's not going to run hit scan. Why not? It can be good against the Genji. It's another beam he can't deflect.
Isu can potentially go for a hack, but it is very hard for that to happen. You can just kind of shift away. Plus, you're just hard to kind of follow up on, although I say that. Look at this flank. There's the hack. So you're talking about the shift to fly away. He does just that, and he's going to be able to glide back down, and Arn's on the with Ash. We'll take out Ivy as well. So it's a two-man flank from Isu on Sato to try and take out Rascal. They do not succeed, and then they end up losing someone as well. And another one. The Isu goes down too. So again, it's who contests Arns, but then it's two different directions, right? You got to contest Arns, but then Rascal's always up in the skies too. He's 60% towards an ult as well, Hex.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to Ivy, but it was Ons who took down Ivy in the previous fight. So Ivy's going to have to be able to get up there, but you want to be able to get Hisu up there and Ivy to dive him once he's hacked, because Coach Gun can be a great disengage.
Okay, they have Nano. They're just going to jump onto... Okay, so they're going to jump on the supports. They just do a shield, and there's still a lot of damage there. An alarm ends up going down to Arndt. However, they take out Super, so a lot less staying power now available. Sato goes extraordinarily low as he's found Arndt's sniper once again in the corner. Nothing you can do. He even gets hacked. He actually made up on the high ground anyway. A late Transcendence from Violet might be good enough, and Rascal actually earns himself an EMP in the chaos of it all. He doesn't manage to get it off in time. Everybody crashes back down to Earth as that flux from Troy was not followed up upon. And the Philadelphia Fusion gaining 2 ticks and a third here as well as they get this payload moving through King's Row.
Yeah, well, that's the answer to the Ons question as well, is you just nano your Winston and let him do the diving for your team, because even if everyone gets away, everyone's going to be chunked down so bad, and he did a great job of pushing them out into the open where the rest of his team can follow up and get the kills that they need. I mean, with the Zarya and the Winston's going to be completely safe, and then Fury on the cleanup at the bottom there. He's earned himself a Graviton Surge, grab into, well, EMP into grab, whatever way you want to work it here. Funny Astro...
into the stratosphere. He's got that rally as well. Just enabling the rally on that point is just so massive. Well,
EMP.
we're in a team fight. That's huge. 6-man EMP with a bio grenade on top, I believe, as well. That landed onto Super there. That will be second point, almost guaranteed. There's quite a lot of space they need to actually cover still, as there was only one person on the payload, although now rounding this second to last corner, they should be okay.
Well, I love this conversation from Philly, because it's really smart to play to your advantages. And when you look at San Francisco, you say, like, everybody is really good, but I think their 2 advantages are they have a better Sombra, because Sombra has been mediocre at best, and they have a better flex support.
Okay, Violet was just on the side. He gets solo grabbed. And now you've got almost nothing on the point. Alarm gets dragged back in, though. That supercharger on the Bob did so much work. Bob definitely one of the best things to actually contest the payload. It getting supercharged as well does a surprising amount of damage. Answer's able to clean that up with the help of his Bob, and now they can hold this this point here. That looks so good because they managed to kill off Violet, who was on this weird flank with the solo grab. Like, it's not normally a bad thing. If you can get a support and even like maybe force out a defensive tool like the Nano one, like the Immortality Field, it could be a pretty good trade, but they weren't able to make it stick as that supercharger was there in response.
Yeah, Super Bob can be very, very good, and it's only fitting considering his exit animation looks like the Iron Giant flying away. So Ivy's going to have the Blade for this next fight, looking for individual hacks up top. Hacking Baptiste is really good if you get it.
Oh, there's the Nano, there's the Blade. Immortality Field's not out just yet, and Ivy kills 2. Oh, that'll be another one as well, as Super's just fending for his life on this payload. That Immortality Field, I don't think it even came out in the end. Moth was just distracted by Houston that entire time. If he turns his back and tries to get the Immo Field out, hey, good luck. You're going to get hacked, or you're just going to get straight up killed. The Fusion, with a little less time in the bank coming into this third point. They still have 3 minutes, though, so a couple of fights at least.
Still solid, and they can win a fight just with an EMP here. The defenders, as long as they're not grouped up. But I mean, defense it's a little harder to get an attacking EMP off, because defense is going to be spread out a little bit. You're going to have supports on the high ground, supports a little further away. So I think you can't be greedy and go for a giant 6-man EMP again, but just find 2 or 3 priority targets.
Oh, Ivy is
playing with
he has
fire
no deflect
right now.
either. Sato's going to help him as he jumps into the Mega Pack room. That Mega Health Pack's actually been hacked as well, so that's a lot less ground that people like Rascal can actually play around. And it does enable Sado to kind of stick in this room almost permanently. So a lot of healing, more HPS than a Mercy team, so worth keeping in mind. EMP for Hisu, looking for a manual hack, he jumps straight in. That's a 5-man EMP as well. That rally from Valiant is going to be good, but the arm is just not going to be able to build up in time. He's running away from the rest of his team, trying to get out alive. Hisu with the translocator to get out of danger. Rascal ends up going down, and like you just predicted, Hex, Fusion just winning this team fight off this EMP.
Absolutely enormous, and now they've got 2 of their tank ultimates about to come online in Nanoblade, ready to go. The anti-heals have been huge from Alarm.
Oh, there is so much. And they take almost 0 damage as well as they come back down. Nanoblade in the back. Oh, the immortality field was good, but Moth got booped out of it. Ivy jumps into the grab, finds another 2 kills, and now his Arn's on the point. Can't find anything. Killed Sado, but the grenade finished him off. And the Fusion, they're going to cap point C with 1 minute and 44 remaining. We're going to some additional rounds.
What a set here. Overall, I think that Philadelphia is really smart playing to their strengths of running the Genji, running the Sombra. I don't think there's any doubt that they have the best Sombra player in the server. Hisu Sombra has been very, very solid for them, especially recently. And Ans, I think, just does not like playing it that much. I said better flex support, maybe a misspeaking there. Alarm's Ana, I think, is actually just amazing, especially if Twilight's not in the game. Violet's good on everything else, but I think Alarm's Ana has proven time and again to be the best part of the Philadelphia Fusion. Now, a minute difference, and that's actually pretty big. That is 1 more attempt, and it also allows you to make sure you get every ultimate up. 144 is the cusp of like most ultimates. Some of the faster charging ones especially. You can get a Transcendence maybe. You could definitely get Nano in that instance. But San Francisco is going to have a much better push when they turn around on offense because they can just wait for it to all come through.
There were so many hype support players coming into the season. Alarm, definitely one of them. Of course, he did play on BK Stars way back when in Apex Season 1. He actually played tank at that time with Twilight on the roster too. So there's a fun little fact for you. Who's facing one of his very, very old teammates. And Alarm being on the Fusion University roster also alongside people like Snillo. It was only a matter of time before people like him and Astro were going to make it to the league, and you can see exactly why the Fusion wanted to keep him, or the Philly organization wanted to keep him when he puts up performances like this.
Well, this is another reason that Rascal gets to play, is his versatility. He's going to be playing Sombra from San Francisco Shock on their defense. Individual hack can be enormous. They get Ivy hacked. He lives through it.
The big wraparound. I do always like these 2-prongs attacks though from the Shock, just playing also split, so a little less value from people like Sado and Ivy who love to kind of just cleave people on ults. Although it's a bit easier for Hisu because he can kind of isolate one target or just kind of sit there and spam a tank until he gets ult. They're very slow though.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is designed for Philadelphia to make sure they can clear out the high ground.
Well, tell you what, they just went for a hack. He's just literally sitting here. He is passively gaining ult charge. A snail's pace, unfortunately, as he's not gone in to do really any damage. Okay, there's the hack. He landed onto the brink, but I think he actually got interrupted, but it didn't matter. But they do trade supports as Alarm also ends up falling. Astro needs to get to with the rest of his team at this point to heal them all up. Although with Moth being surrounded and no immortality field available, Sado and Ivy just executing the perfect dive. Answers up onto the high ground, and this split approach from the Shock, I do really like it, but the problem is, if you give Fusion the space, they're going to take a whole bunch of it. Arns at least kills 2 people on the retreat, however, the Fusion are still going to be able to at least gain a tick here.
The initial dive on a Violet was absolutely a thing of beauty. To be waiting back there as long as he was, even if the hack was interrupted, the dive and the damage that came through on him so quickly.
Okay, they hacked Astro. Now we have Rascal nearing the EMP of his own. He's got 5% away. Here comes the Bob. It got launched into Neverland. Actually, it's on a sick flank, mind you. Super's Arista manages to find a kill as well. Arn's Bob is doing so much work already. The Nano is not going to be available for that blade. Ivy just jumped straight in. He's just built up an EMP, but it's way too late. 1 minute and 44 was in the time bank, Hex, and Hisu only just gets the EMP. They were trying to set up this dive for this entire time, and I literally said it a second ago, a snail's pace actually building it up because he's not doing damage.
No, wasn't doing anything. Just playing a little bit afraid because you're banking all in on that EMP, and the only way to charge EMP slower is to be dead. But you still have to take some chances there. Maybe go for individual hacks. I don't know if maybe his translocate was in a bad spot that would have put him at risk of getting killed. But I think teams still have not learned that San Francisco is always in a fight. They're always in a fight until you hear the team kill horn. And even then, somehow. I don't know how they pull those back. But they just are able to wait it out. They get EMP faster. The Bob is an extra person on the point. They're able to tap toes onto the point with Super. And eventually just overwhelm Philadelphia, who was in a good spot there, but never getting the EMP is brutal. Because, I mentioned at 144, one of the ults you expect to get up in a 144 fight is your EMP. And the fact it never came is a little bit tough for Philadelphia.
Yeah, extraordinarily tough. And mind you, Hex, I want to say that ball wasn't even on the point. Like, he was actually on the statue, creating the perfect flank. I mean, you're having to touch the point, of course, because you don't want OT to take down. Then you got Bob shooting you in the back. You got Super holding M1 like he does best. Shock now at 3 minutes to capture about 85% of this first point. That's really one fight here. So, okay, Rascal jumping over to the May. They just need one Blizzard, ideally. Or an Arms, I think, is just going to be sticking on this Widowmaker. Yeah. Because, again, you just need one pick. That's really what you need to make an incision.
With 3 minutes, you can wait for all of your ultimates, or you can play it slow, or you can go Brawl and hope that Ans ends up getting a pick and just opens it up for you. San Francisco really doesn't lose 6v5 fights. Or eventually, you can just wait for Blizzard. A nice anti-heal, but they're all in safe quarters.
His nades are pretty good from Alarm. Of course, there's a high ground you can kind of splash it off. Okay, now they push him on the payload. Perfect flank as well, because Arns is actually just sitting in the spawn, so he can just take pot shots at people that are contesting. Sado's going to go sky high. Told you, just there. Arns is taking the flank, or look, not really a flank, you're just playing it straight up, and now they're going to be able to secure a tick. The Philadelphia Fusion have lost a DPS and a tank and Fury now as Arns is on the ground. Ivy tries to take him out, but the support that they are giving him is just ridiculous. There's not really much he can do now. Astro scurrying for cover, and the coalescence from Violet is going to make sure they're punished for every single step that they take on this point. Even a boop on Sado out of the bubble. Headshot by Arns again. And the Shock are going to complete map 2 and tie the series up 1 apiece.
Well, San Francisco and Kings Row name a more iconic duo. They are now 9-1 on the season, and this map looks custom-made for them. Able to run the old Zarya and Reinhardt composition with a super aggressive Reinhardt. Opens up all the space in the world for your ace sniper. Rascal, jack of all trades, plays everything. It's just a perfect map for them. It allows Moth to play Lucio. It plays to their strengths so well. Philadelphia had a nice first offense, but their second offense left a little something to be desired. But that's San Francisco's map pick. You expect them to win that one, and we have ourselves a series and a half here, living up to the hype so far, Jaws.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes the full distance again, and I really do hope it does. We're going to jump to a quick break. Watchpoint is going to break down the series so far. We'll see in a bit.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile.
Welcome to the finals game break presented by Cheez-It Grooves. It's me, Reinforced here with Costa and Matt, Mr. X. Wow, what a series so far. I mean, tied 1 apiece, and we've seen a lot of different looks from both teams so far. I think we dived straight into map 1, came out on Busan. And I want to talk about this Reaper composition, right? Because we've talked about the Philadelphia Fusion, how they up the tempo of the game, they play a lot of dive, but they bring in the Reaper, Costa. What is your synopsis on this composition? Why do you think they brought out the Reaper with the Lucio Moira?
I think the Reaper is really interesting at shutting down the way that the San Francisco Shock want to move around the map, right? They have someone just waiting with open arms every time Smurf tries to jump at them, and it worked to a degree, but I think at certain points, you really got to give more respect to Arns, who has the potential to just kill your entire team, and we saw more of that in King's Row. But I actually really like the adaptation. I just want to see them having the ability to get off of it when the time comes.
Yeah, they learned about ignoring Ons in map number 2, right? We saw that in a big way. I think you can make what they did with the Reaper, though, I kind of liked in map number 1. They were able to rush down Smurf when he was trying to play the Winston in certain scenarios and really made them pay for it at times.
Yeah, and that was the key point, I think, for me as well as a tank player. Just, we talked about so much, right? How Smurf is a fantastic main tank player, especially on that Winston. And now playing the Reaper with the Lucian Moira, you can really chase down that Winston. So, that might be another strategy that Philadelphia Fusion are bringing out. But Fusion takes map 1, we head over to King's Row. I mean, this is just the home of the San Francisco Shock, right? They bring in Super, they bring in Moth, they play this brawl composition that Sideshow loves so very much. Talk us through a little bit how they're playing this brawl composition to the maximum and how they're able to shut down the Fusion's dive.
Scott does it the best. Do your speed boost line, Scott, where you go speed boost, right? Yep, there you go. Yep, they put in super, they go speed boost, and then they run on in. But the biggest thing for map 2 was not even their brawly style, was the fact that Ons was able to just sit up on the high ground and free fire on Ashe or Widowmaker the entire game. I've gone up against you, Johnny, in the Widowmaker battle, and I've beaten you, and I'm pretty sure that you would be able to hit some of these shots as well.
How many times have you untellected?
I'm undefeated. It doesn't really matter what my record is.
No, you're not undefeated. I'm pretty sure that's wrong. Costa, help us out here. Guide us towards it. We got a finals matchup, and we got King's Row. What really happened? Give us the analysis.
I think that you can't be too dejected if you're the Philadelphia Fusion right now. I think this is San Francisco Shock's map, especially when they put in Super, they put in Moth, the way they move around the map. With Arns on the Widow, they just seem to move for free, and if you try and deal with Super, you die to Arns. If you try and go for Arns, Super just kills everybody. There's no middle ground. I think you just Don't get dejected from your Winston Zarya dive. Make sure you keep going, and then don't think about that map, because I don't think there's another map in the map pool that really has that level of synergy for that composition.
Yeah, I agree, and I think if you're the Philadelphia Fusion, you stick to your guns for at least another map. You have a map pick that you can choose now. You take that map pick, you keep Hisu and Ivy in the game, you run this dive again. If it doesn't work there, then maybe you consider changing after that.
All right, so for our crunch time presented by Cheez-It Grooves, there's one player in specific we want to talk about, and it is Ans from the San Francisco Shock. All three of us feel like this player is really the main player to look out for in this matchup, and he's deciding a lot of the tactics and the strategy so far. Ans obviously a big impact player on this Widowmaker. How do you really play around him if you are the Fusion here, Costa?
I think you need to get the dive working. I don't think I really don't want to see them sub in Carpe. I don't want to see them take a head-to-head duel. We saw them play a little bit of Reinhardt on King's Row. I think you need to find a way to enable Sato to get on top of her, or at least give Hisu and Ivy space so that they can get on top of him. If you just leave him to his own free will, it's not going to work. We saw the Florida Mayhem really give them a run for their money at certain times by doing the same thing. So I want to see the Philadelphia Fusion pull it off.
See, I don't hate bringing in Carpe to deal with this.
Really?
And I think, I mean, I want to see them try the dive yet again, but I think if you bring in Carpe to play the Widow and you can at least neutralize Ons, he probably goes to what, Ashe or Sombra in that type of situation. You can. The biggest advantage would be, as long as it really comes down to Rascal for me. If they keep Rascal in the game, I think it's probably something you'd rather deal with dive. If they put in Striker, I think you can match with Carpe, because you'll have an advantage in terms of Ashe Genji versus Ashe Tracer. I don't know what your guys' opinion is. I think Ashe Genji is way more powerful than the Tracer comp.
I actually think you could match with Carpe, but I would rather do it later down in the series, because I feel like if you're really feeling the momentum of the dive with the Genji and Sombra, you like, can try to pull that off, right? But then if you go into a situation where maybe Shock have 3 maps won already and you're 1 map away from losing, maybe then you do like a Hail Mary and you bring in Carpe. Do you agree with that, Costa? What's your thoughts?
I think the caveat that you guys are understanding is you're assuming that Carpe can take it to Arns. Like, Carpe is phenomenal, right?
Not as a Hail Mary, you know? You kind of like, you know,
but
throwing the chips on the table.
Arns is on fire. He is on a different level. BQB was playing at such a phenomenal level, and even he couldn't take Arns down. Like, I really think it needs to be on top of the dive and not going and just hoping Carpe can save
I don't think he needs to take it to... I don't think he needs to take it to Arns. I think he just needs to keep him honest and at least show a Widow on the other side, something that'll make him pay.
Do they win everything else then? But like, yeah, they can shut down Arns, but then you all of a sudden you have to control the rest.
I think Genji versus Traper and the rest, you're in a better spot too, yeah.
All right, well, there you have it. We're about to head into the second half, so let's start it over to our casters. It's going to be Jaws and Hex.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch. The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile.
And by State Farm.
For auto, home, or renters insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Welcome back. This is Shock versus the Fusion Grand Finals of the Countdown Cup. Hex, we're about to jump into Temple of Anubis.
Yeah, Temple of Anubis is going to be the pick of the Philadelphia Fusion. Obviously, you don't want to take San Francisco Shock to Hanamura. I think teams have learned their lesson. San Francisco is undefeated on Hanamura at 11-0. However, Philadelphia has a very good record on the Temple of Anubis. They are 5-0. San Francisco, I believe, rocking a 1-1 record. And we have some substitutions coming in here. Twilight will come in to play with Violet, so they want to run maybe Bat Brig, something like that, or anything. You could even run a Zen in this situation. Zen has been crushing on this map. And yeah, I think that's... And then Striker and Rascal will be the damage dealers, yeah.
Striker, Rascal, damage dealers this time around, so Arns has taken a back seat, and Smurf as well in for Super. So almost the same lineup as we had on Control. I'm a little bit shocked to see them not keep Arns in for the Widow or the Ashe, but it does mean that they want to go almost pure dive, right? They want to have Rascal on the Genji. Genji extremely good on this map, specifically on first, because there's so many ways. On defense, there's a lot of ways you can like push very far up and be rather safe, especially if people go to the right and left-hand side. If you're looking at the attackers point, you go to the left-hand side. There's the Mega Pack room. That's where most of the attackers end up going. And then in there, the Genji could just hide up in the rafters, doing his best Batman impression, or like Prince of Persia, just kind of throwing shurikens at people, from the ceiling, and you can earn your blade so fast.
Well, this is the most versatile DPS lineup that San Francisco can put out, right? Because you mentioned like On's not being in there, but Striker in his own right is a very, very good Widow, very, very good Ashe, and also he's just got a superior Tracer to On, so it just allows that versatility. Obviously, we know what Rascal can do. My biggest question for Philadelphia, I was kind of musing on, is because Hisu's been okay on the Sombra in the last couple of weeks. And even on the last map, he got like a couple 6-man EMPs, it was looking good, and then the blunder on the offense. But going back into the beginning of the season, he has a very inconsistent Sombra, so it's... I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it's a question mark. It's something to keep an eye on as we go forward, because I think Philadelphia really is opting into this Genji Sombra gameplay. We'll see what San Francisco wants to run, but it's just something to note is that his Sombra has been, well, wildly inconsistent, I think it's fair to say.
Well, he's going to go up against Rascal, Striker's Sombra even, as we see the Shock roll out on the defense.
Yeah,
a little bit more dive-centric, having Rascal.
This is San Francisco's best Genji Sombra combination, easily.
I want to see how they're going to play the Winston here, because if you would kind of expect Fusion to do the same kind of thing, which currently they are, it's going to be a straight mirror. As Hisu wants to switch to something fight. I doubt he does. I don't think there's any way. He does have his Translocator back in the spawn, so he can kind of
get a different
back to that
spot for that if he can.
Yeah, he's not. No, so it doesn't look like he's going to change at all. In fact, nope, hacking the mini health back definitely indicates he's staying. And it's just about taking this platform control first. You give a lot less space to the enemy healers too if you do this, because Twilight is so safe. Not so much anymore, as he's purple. Same with Smurf is going to have to get out of there rather fast too. That was a beautiful fire grenade from Alarm. You can see how much ult charge both Twilight and Alarm have already. Old teammates, like I said before, rocking the same supports. And Smurf has to be a little bit careful, but the Zarya has to be careful with the bubble. And it's going to be a small rotation here from Fusion trying to get onto high ground.
Oftentimes the defense will meet them up on this high ground as well, but it does seem like Philadelphia's just going to be able to take full control of it. As where does the dive come in from? Getting free progress.
Yeah, this is a really nice position from Alarm here. You can kind of nade inside the bubble like that. As soon as you break it, you're going to be safe. Sado did get hacked. No tick acquired just yet for the Fusion. A couple of pixels off before that went out. And Ivy actually dies in the 1v1 to Rascal in that small room. Very honourable, I must say, and not dipping out for heals. Sado ends up getting the nano boost as well to try and turn the tides. However, Smurf is going to receive 1-2, but almost instantly go down. Oh no, sorry, that was Violet that got the nano boost from Twilight. It wasn't Smurf at all, and I'm wondering if that was actually a mistake. Maybe Violet got in the way, because it definitely felt like Smurf was in a bit of a precarious position. And now they're jumping onto the point. Rascal's going to go down as well, and now Fusion could start getting some time.
Yeah, Fusion right now just wants to win the fight without having to use any more ultimates. Like, that is the big key right now.
Okay, that's a sick ult, actually. Oh, the EMP as well, straight on top of Fury. There's the blade. Oh, Choi, run. He's got a blade in a small room, although Ivy doesn't have the nano boost, so he almost instantly ends up going down. Twilight's thirsty for blood. Sado and Ivy end up falling. That was a beautiful grab coming out from the Fusion to stop Violet there from getting the rally to the rest of his team. The problem was then Fury got grabbed. And unleashing the blade without the nano, Fusion can't really do much. They got so much protection, and they could just evade the blade.
It caught them completely off guard. It caught me a little bit off guard too. Again, I need to learn that San Francisco is still in every single fight. And look what Philadelphia ended up spending to try to pull that one back. The EMP and the blade. Yeah, the Grav came out to try to defend it. Now San Francisco has flipped this script. Their economy is in a great position. Philadelphia, though, has his nano ready to go.
Wow. Okay, well. Sado dies to Violet. Okay, go again. Look how many ults those Shock have.
There's only a minute left.
A little bit absurd. Yeah, you got
only
one
a minute
fight
left. There's 2 ticks though, so it doesn't have to be a supreme team fight. But San Francisco just banking ultimates right now. I think San Francisco is going to be the aggressors here. I think they come in and try to nail an EMP because the attackers are going to be grouped up. EMP is much better to land on an attacking force.
Yeah, someone's hanging around the mega pack here. Hisu on the high ground. Hasn't found anybody just yet. He's waiting for Sado to kind of jump in. He actually does take the duel with somebody. And now Sado jumps up into the high ground with a Primal Rage, although Nano Blade is still available from the Shock. There's the Nano. The Blade might not even need to come out, to be fair. No, Rascal's just not going to go in with this. They're a little bit too far away and isolated too, so this Nano went a little bit astray, if I must say. An attempted hack onto Rascal to stop him dashing in, but they must know he has the Blade. Sado gets the Nano boost, but is going to get naded too. He has to just get out of there ASAP. A Graviton Surge will come in from the Shock, as well as that rally on top, and in fact, they're throwing everything in. 13 seconds remains for the Fusion to try and find a place on the first point, but it's not going to happen, and now they're going to have to touch. But I don't think it's going to work. I mean, Hisu, he's got 10% towards this EMP, but San Francisco Shock with pure ultimate economy game has managed to hold the Fusion off this first point. Sado's going to be able to get back just in time, but gets booped away. And the Shock have such a clear win condition. I mean, especially on Anubis, it's such a long way from the second point spawn. It takes you so long to get back if you haven't got a Lucio, you're not a Tracer, like someone with mobility. One fight here, and Shock could end this map right now.
Choi Hyobin got 2 Graviton Surges, was able to lap Fury. He was able to get Grav every 1 minute and 40 seconds. Meanwhile, Fury at 2:31. And while we have this downtime, Jack, it's my favorite game. Pop quiz, hot shot. How many kills did Philadelphia Fusion have on their push?
3.
Oh, it's close. But these are your Price is Right rules. You went over. It is 2. 2 kills.
2. Okay.
Rascal and Smurf died.
Ouch. I mean, that is... Yeah. Coming off of the map and it being close, in fact, both of them being fairly close, you're like, okay, cool. Don't expect to get first held, but nah. It's Twilight the sharpshooter on the Ana. I love doing damage as Ana. I've always found it quite satisfying.
I just find San Francisco so absurd sometimes because I'll forget about all the guys on the team, and then it's like, well, yeah, okay, Violet's really good at Zen. He's really good Baptiste. You can play Brig. They've got Moth and Lucio and the Mercy covered, and then one of the best Anas from Season 2, Twilight, MVP candidate, Roll Star, like... It's absurd. It's the embarrassment of riches that San Francisco has.
Shock do be hoarding some good players. I will say that.
Shock do be hoarding.
Yep. Nice little leap in there from Smurf. Got to track Hisu here, ideally. You can stop him from building this EMP, but we said it before, Hex, that he's been struggling on this Sombra pick. The EMPs have been good, but the generation not so much. And look at the space now that Shock are going to be able to claim. They're going to be able to claim this Mega Pack room, however their health pack is hacked, luckily enough for Fusion.
Choi Hyobin has no energy right now. He's going to try to go get some. Has to be a little careful, but they're holding door.
He's alive somehow still? Okay. That was a ridiculously good nade from Alarm there, waiting for the personal bubble from Choi to go down. And now they're just fighting this room. Eventually, Choi dies. There we go. Another Bio Grenade lands, and that is Shock going down. Nothing really else they can do.
Okay, I mean, now you're thinking this is winnable because it's not like you can only draw this map. San Francisco did put some progress on there. Those free 2 ticks are really going to come back to haunt. Or, excuse me, yeah, Philadelphia put some progress on there. They were at 87%, so San Francisco, their first push extremely botched. the alt economy in favor of Philadelphia by a small margin here. So they need to win 2 more fights, and they can win this map.
Just stockpiling ultimates, and that's what Fusion have done. They've got EMP, they've got Blade, they've got Nano Blade, in fact, and they almost have that grab too. 6 ultimates online almost. Oh, nice little sleep. And whoa, look at that. That is a get down, Mr. President, right there. Everybody spotting someone being asleep, and they dash around him. EMP comes out. That's a 5-man. That's Rascal dead, and that's the rest of the team gone as well. And now you sit on a Nano Blade, a grab, a Primal Rage. Very winnable from the Fusion. However, Shock not out of this just yet. EMP coming through. That's 4 people hacked. However, the rally's already building up for the Fusion. They're way harder to take down. Ivy with the Nano. He doesn't need the Blade. They're already trapped in the grab. That will be that team fight over again. The Shock investing a fair bit into this fight. They used the Nano, they used the Rally and the EMP, but Philadelphia, they had to use a few of their own, and they only have the Blade coming for this next fight with no Rally armor. This should disappear by the time the Shock engage again.
Yeah, it's not a few of their own. They used everything. Those are single-digit charges on the entire 4 right players of the Philadelphia. Both supports and both tank ultimates used. Now San Francisco has a Blade of their own, a grab, and a Primal here in a huge position. Philadelphia might just try to go in and stop this. If they find a support out alone, I think you just have to gamble with the Naked Blade into the backline.
See where Ivy is. He's kind of hiding around the high ground on the left-hand side with Sado. Ivy is going fairly low, however, and Choi setting up for the grab of his life.
Well, they want to rotate to get up there. I mean, the grab needs to go into the high ground where all the major players are.
Yeah, you can pin into the wall, though, so maybe that's the play for Choi. He's going to bubble them down. So now the Fusion are in an odd situation where they have to contest. He's just going to do just that. 4-man EMP. Rascal go down first yet again. And now 40 seconds remains for the Shock. They may have had the ult hex, but Philadelphia Fusion, they managed to build up another EMP. It took Shock so long to decide really what they wanted to do. They pushed in onto the point, had positioning, but Hisu had a better one.
It just wasn't quick enough. They just didn't go quick enough because Hisu was, I think, at 30% when that fight started with the ult, and much maligned in the last couple of maps for his ult charging ability, but he's able to get that EMP off. Last gasp, though, for San Francisco. They're going to have 5 ready to go. Striker gets hacked! Striker gone! Nano Blade, though, in the back. Rascal's find one already, and it's to support. The sleep guard goes wide. Alarmentum going down as well, but Ivy at least trading 1 for 1. Rascal with a 4K, and now jumps to the back. Ivy and Hisu are low. The Graviton Surge on the 2 HP Ivy finishes him off in the end. And Shock, they managed to get onto the point. Someone still has to touch. Thank goodness Smurf realized that. Fusion are going to be able to come back on the Wrecking Ball, but it doesn't really seem winnable now as Striker is just holding on to this EMP. The Nano Blade was worth it. Ivy tried to clutch it out in the end. Sado's going to be able to come out with a Primal Rage as well. Still winnable. EMP hits a couple of people. Smurf is going to get hacked as well. The rally is here. That is going to be it. Shock are going to push off Fusion in OT. It looks so winnable, but it doesn't matter in the end. The Shock are going to claim the map and claim 2-1 in the series. A very interesting version of Temple of Anubis. It is Philadelphia Fusion's first loss on that map all season. San Francisco plays the extremely patient game. Philadelphia did what they could. I mean, but that's what San Francisco was trying to set up for that very good push where everybody uses ultimates. They got EMP'd before it was able to happen, but with 14 seconds left, they come back in, and then the individual plays from Rascal, who is probably the best Genji player on this roster, even though they've been trying to make some moves to solidify that spot. He comes through the dueling blades, and he just gets a little bit more than his counterpart. San Francisco will take the series lead 2-1.
It was all up that second to last fight too, where Philly had almost 6 ults. In fact, they did have 6 ults.
Yes.
And they used 5
them all.
of them. And then Shock, well, they had 4. So it just really all came down to the ultimate economy again. Something that the best teams are going to be able to do is just only use as much as you really need. The Shock did exactly that, and Philadelphia Fusion with a little bit of the overextension. It's going to be their chance now to choose a map as we go into map number 4 momentarily. And still, Shock can sub people in and out. They're more than happy to do so. I can imagine we're going to see a little bit of Arns potentially soon, as a lot of these escort maps have a lot of Widowmaker sightlines. So we're going to jump to a quick break. Do not go anywhere. It's Philly's map choice. We're 2-1. And the next one, it's going to be a good one.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile.
Welcome back. Shock lead the series 2-1 currently as well. Our next map is going to be Watch Point Gibraltar, chosen by Philly. And I'd be pretty scared if I went on to Watch Point or a lot of the escort maps currently, as it's a pretty good stomping ground for a Widowmaker, and it doesn't look like Arns is going to come back in as well.
Yeah, Arns on Widow. I mean, there's not a lot of great maps to go to on this map type. I believe the records, I just looked at them and I already forgot, but San Francisco I think is like 2-0 and Philadelphia is like 2-3 on this one. Not a whole lot of playtime here, but I think you just go to Gibraltar because everybody has been practicing this dive composition, the Zarya Winston dive composition with a Genji in the mix, and then it's kind of rounding out what else do you want to run with that Genji in that scenario. Is it a Widow? Is it a Sombra? A little bit of each, but I would imagine that San Francisco is tipping their hand a little bit that they want to run a Widowmaker. That's why Ons is it.
Yeah, no surprises there, really. Let's see how Fusion end up trying to counter this. I want to know if they're just going to run the kind of the anti-Widow or have Hisu back on the Widow himself to 1v1 Arns. Of course, we will see what Philly want to run as they're on defense first, Hex.
I mean, I understand the meta as what it is, but it is a little bit surprising that Philadelphia is going to go to a finals in a tournament, and Carpe might be on the bench the whole series.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
surprising. They've actually never met
right?
San Francisco Shock in this tournament format either. The last two, they've never crossed paths until this point, and it being the last tournament as well. I mean, those extra wins on the line means a whole lot.
Hasn't beaten San Francisco since Season 1. I mean, that was a different San Francisco team as well. Like, San Francisco was sandbagging in Season 1, I guess, because they had a bunch of underage players. Like, Super and Sinatra weren't eligible, and they just kind of fielded a roster, and they were playing the long game. Whenever I talked to the organization and the ownership, they're like, no, just wait till Season 2. Season 2 will be good. And, yeah, they won Season 2, so they had a plan going into it. But, yeah, that's the last time Philadelphia was able to beat the San Francisco Shock. And we shall see. Ons on offense is going to be on the Sombra first, but maybe this is just to allow the versatility.
Well, they're going to know that Hisu's on this Sombra as well. I wonder if Ons does end up switching. I'm not sure he is. Kind of doing damage, less about scouting. High ground control, name of the game for Watch Point Gibraltar. You see Smurf just kind of escorting the payload. I mean, the best thing for Hisu here is basically just to get behind the enemy lines and just start poking at the tanks. Hisu's going to be able to get priority control of the health packs. Well, Oh dear, inside his own bubble. And Choi, oh, whoops-a-daisy, gets booped off the map as well. There is someone still pushing the payload. It is Striker. Fury cleans up the rest, though, and stops the payload from moving too. Now Hisu can just set up really well. It's kind of a soft counter to Striker too. Striker's dead. Yeah, that's a big stack skill, actually. It's a kind of a soft counter to the Tracer, because if you hack all the health packs, Hex, you can't really scurry anywhere. You literally have to go back to your healers in order to get healing. So it can be very annoying for Striker to actually get a lot of space and do work in the backline.
And it's also going to be somewhat difficult for Twilight to heal the Tracer as well. I mean, Tracer's a small target far away, and you don't really want to be standing still as a Tracer. So it's up to Violet to just try to toss him packs, and that's less packs for everybody else.
Tracer pretty fast.
Smart packs.
Should be fine. He's going to get around the corner. Slow, grueling push here. Oh my god, they were so low. Oh, the nano boost onto the blue box. Oh dear, he does get slept. Oh, and they leave him too. Oh, this is disaster. Sado just leapt up to the moon and then got slept and hacked. And now the EMP's going to come out though. Smurf, Choi, Arns, they've all been hacked. Striker sends out the post bomb but doesn't quite find anybody. That's a beautiful counter EMP there from the Fusion. Hisu spotted how many members of the shot were kind of in and around his team, hits that EMP, and manages to take out Smurf, or at least attempt to help him. Graviton Surge into the front line as well. Violet jumps into the bubble to try and heal everybody up, but it's not going to work. The Fusion continuing to hold this payload.
And they invested everything that they had going into that one. Ons dies, but he is going to be the absolute key to their next fight. He's going to have an EMP ready, and that's about all they have to work with. Funny Astro will have a rally to perhaps counter that. Philadelphia not working with a ton themselves. Let's see if the Ensemble can get something done here.
See where he's playing. He's still kind of with the team currently.
We're at 90 seconds, and they're just past Car Wash.
You only need one fight, however. I heard Hisu's beacon, who had the little call out from far behind. And Hisu is closing in on an EMP of his own. If he can kind of get this ASAP, they may be able to counter EMP, but Striker has seen him, so he's going to have to back off. Now they both have EMP. EMP first from the Fusion. Shock again, a little bit late to the party. Hex once more. Ivy and Arns do end up trading out, but Sadu is staying alive with this Primal Rage. This is a good look for the Fusion right now. Ivy's going to be able to get back rather fast too. Arns can come back with the EMP of his own, but the Fusion are going to be able to hold the high ground. A Graviton Surge on to the point. The Pulse Bomb goes a little bit wide. In fact, I think it was bubbled by Choi. And now Fury just runs to the back line and kills off Twilight and Choi. The EMPs come out. Hex, it hit 3 people. Hisu ends up falling. It's Striker and Smurf's duty now to try and clean up this fight. But Fury's going to be able to get kept alive, and he's still holding this grab. Shocker just all over the place on this map. Indecisiveness with these EMPs is not landing them in a good space. 25 seconds now remaining for them to put this payload in the first point.
I mean, if you were going to run Sombra the whole time, I don't know why like Striker doesn't run it or Rascal doesn't run it. Ons' Sombra, he plays it aggressively, and he EMP'd and he died immediately. And yes, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but the follow-up damage needs to be there from even just the Sombra, and also getting the secondary hacks when EMP starts fading, and he's out of the fight.
Okay, Ons
Desperation Widow.
I mean, this is it. This is the true desperation pick.
Blade,
always
though.
has been. Choi gets hacked as well. He can't go to the payload. Someone has to touch. Someone has to touch. The Tracer does in the end, but Smurf ends up getting caught out alone, and now the Blade's going to be big. Fury does end up going down. I say the Blade's going to be big. The Graviton Surge went wide as well, but the damage is really there. And finally, Arns gets taken out. Ivy may have been slept, and Twilight does pull it off. The miracle sleep on the Blade, but with Striker the only surviving member from the shot on the payload, is they going to be able to do too much with just a single pick? The Fusion are going to halt them just before first point. It's either you get held at first, or you make it all the way to the third point and finish on this map. There is literally no in between. And this time around, they'll Philly hold them. Shock again with the EMPs. Hisu was 75%-ish. He was around that kind of bracket, and Arns had EMP. And I said, Hisu needs to build up EMP, maybe go for a counter. Nope, Hisu built up EMP, hit it, and Shock hadn't used theirs yet. And they just get rolled over. And then they were in a clutch situation, and Arns ended up using it, hitting 2 people, but then there was no follow-up.
Yeah. And Sato didn't die at all that map. He was getting primal every minute 15. Hisu, 1 minute and 20 on the EMP charges, ends up with 16 enemies hacked, only 8 EMPs, so the individual hacks also coming in huge. San Francisco only managed 6 kills that entire offense. It's not the best comp for San Francisco. Unfortunately, it's very popular in the meta to be running the Sombra, and you know, San Francisco, the signing window's closed. Otherwise, I'm sure they just signed the best Sombra we've ever seen play somewhere.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, just I feel like Arndt and I kind of thought they put him on the Widowmaker here because it is such a good Widowmaker map, or even
it makes sense, yeah,
as well. I mean, he's going to be on the Sombra yet again. And it is very defendable, mind you, just make you aware. Like, it is very defendable. Most teams currently, we must have a stat for it somewhere.
I think the thought was San Francisco thinking, like, hey, when we get to last point, because we're San Francisco.
Wait, what was that? They were just angrily looking at each other, and then Sado falls over because Choi punched him in the face.
Looked like some cover art.
It really did, actually. Both of them looking at each other, just angrily, just mouse wadding through bubbles. Oh my god, that was funny.
Well, it's going to slow down Philadelphia just a little bit, but this is where you're getting all the free push anyway. They pressure out Ons just with a triple shuriken shot.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate from Ivy, actually. Shurikens are fairly hard to land. It's a very unique weapon. It's like Lucio's in a way. It's rather unique. The right click not so much, but the left click there's a certain knack to this. Certain skill.
Right click is just shuriken shotgun.
Yeah. You right click, you gain ult. You right click, you Oz. That's what Genji's life is currently. Blue box control for the fusion here, though, which is really good because Alarm can set up really nicely.
Yeah, he's just chilling. And, I mean, if you're Winston, like, you're almost afraid to even dive this.
Nice bubble there from Choi to cleanse the purple from Smurf. That could have been horrible if he got dove on there.
Let's have Nano. Nano for both teams. Smurf's hacked, though.
Yeah, Ivy's going to wait, though. You don't want to nano just yet. Well, they do, in fact. They actually nano Sado into the Mega Health Pack room, so they're going to be able to go in with the Blade. They do can take control of the payload as well. Violet is going to be purple, and Striker now managing to finish up Sado. Okay, good start from the Shock. They don't want to let go of this space just yet. And yeah, they're going to be able to back off. Fusion, they know they can't win this fight. Just making sure the Shock invests things here is going to be good for their ultimate economy. They still have 2 minutes, of course, and the payload is 10 meters away from being completed.
Yeah, San Francisco leading on some important ults as well. They're going to have Rally much quicker at about 20% more, and they already have their Graviton Surge up. For me, this one is all about the Sombras. Hisu should definitely be able to get this. Oh, he gets the Translocator!
He's going to be good.
No one's able to capitalize, but now Hisu's got his EMP. He who Qs first might just win this map.
Yeah, well, if Fusion know they need to Q first because they've got Blade as well. Alarm could even build up to another Nano. They could, in fact, wait for an entire rotation of the Nano here to end up winning 6 ults. Twilight with the sleep onto Sado. He's going to be safe, though. There's the EMP. Hisu is going to throw it out. Ivy's going to get purple as well. The Blade comes through, and Striker and Arns have already just dished out so much damage that they end up going down. Striker with a 3-piece of his own. That's a lot invested from the Fusion. The Shock. They now have the Nano. They've got the Grav and they have the Pulse Bomb too. They've got a clear win condition. The EMP and the Nano didn't end up... Sorry, the EMP and the Blade for the Fusion didn't end up working here. So more of an even playing field as we enter into this last fight. However, Astro, with the Rally, is going to be pretty big.
Rally, Nano, Grav. I mean, you can get a lot done here, especially with an individual hack. I mean, if they can hack the opposing Zarya and get their Grav off, they can win this map. And so low. That gets healed.
Okay, Nano Boost onto the Winston again. It's going to be a nice bubble from Choi. Look at him just kind of holding the fort currently. Yeah, he's going to get tickled from the back there, but Arns already ends up going down. Smurf as well. Choi manages to find one. A Graviton Surge in the payload too. The Pulse Bomb's going to be big. There's a personal bubble in the way though. And Fury manages to stay alive and is now at 100 energy. Choi gets burnt down. And now Philadelphia Fusion in control of the payload. 20 seconds remaining, and the Shock need to touch. Striker gets back in time, but gets bashed. Instantly killed off. The purple onto the supports as well. And the Fusion tie up the series, one apiece, as they manage to hold the Shock before the first point and cap now as well. This was going to be close, Hex, but I didn't think it was going to be this close. The Fusion on their map pick hold them on first point. What an incredible set of ults. Like, the Arns EMP, just to kind of win the fight previous, and then Hisu came out with his own. That was just ridiculous. Choi was trying so desperately hard to try and salvage that as they got isolated. I think Shock doing what they were doing on King's Ruin, kind of playing a little bit split, but Choi had to come up with something big with the Grav. He managed to net one person, but Fury was almost 5 steps ahead of him. He knew the Pulse Bomb was coming out, able to survive it with a personal bubble, and they couldn't really do anything from there.
I reset the series, 2-2 going into it. We're in for a barn burner. It's just so many great individual plays, personal bubbles. Yeah, let's just go to 7, Jack. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel good. I feel pretty good about that. We're going to jump to a quick break. Now it's Shock's turn to choose the map. It's a bit ping-pongy back and forth at the moment. Don't go anywhere. You're not going to want to miss it.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back. It's a little bit ping-pongy right now, but you'd expect it. The gap between the top 3 teams currently it seems fairly big. Mayhem definitely in a nice little 4th place, but Philly, Paris, and Shock just look almost on another level, almost on another world when it comes to Overwatch. So I'm not entirely too surprised to see this one go the distance. We're jumping onto another control map now, and it's going to be Oasis.
Yeah, I think getting these early wins against San Francisco for Philadelphia really just helps their mental a lot. It's, if they bleed, we can kill it kind of thing, because San Francisco has been the best of the big 3, I guess, most consistent, most stompy, most embarrassing to play against kind of team. So for the fact that Philadelphia is able to hold close, now it's like, oh yeah, we definitely can beat these guys. Not saying they weren't in to begin with, but now that you're on the cusp and you're beating them, and you're beating them on some really good defensive plays, we barely saw any of Temple of Anubis. We barely saw any of Gibraltar. These are just defensive squads, and they're holding really strong. We are going to go to Oasis for our 5th map, and we do have a substitution as a Rascal will be joining us yet again. Do you know he's just at Rascal on Twitter? How much do you have to pay
what a
for
beast.
That?
I don't know. The shot can just be look at our players, by the way, they're pretty good. Give us handles. You can see, of course, the history of the 2 teams on your screen right now. 2018 season. Philadelphia were 2-1 overall between with the head-to-head, and since then they have not beaten the Shock. In fact, look at how many maps they've taken recently. 0. 2019 and 2020. So it's pretty ridiculous that we've not seen them face off against each other, and it's a delight to see them once again. It was fairly interesting too, because obviously the amount of teams in the league being split up into 2 little regions is a little bit more different now, so you're going to see a lot of the teams play against each other a little bit more, but I cannot believe we've had to wait this long to see Philadelphia play against the San Francisco Shock. It's kind of ridiculous, but what a better way to see it than in a finals of one of the cups. So 2-2, like you said, we're going to Oasis. Rascal is going to be in, and it's going to be the same thing, I think. Rascal coming in for the more flexibility. Widowmaker and hit scan in general can be played on Oasis, I think. The long range hit scan
tougher.
Is a little less prevalent, yeah. A lot tougher.
I mean, you think about University, no, not really. City Center, no, not really. Like, Widow can be okay-ish on Gardens if you like have control and you can perch the window. But for the most part, Oasis is not a good Widow map. Come on, Rascal. Give me like an Echo or a Pharah here. Give me something, because Oasis is actually conducive to those kind of vertical plays, especially the city center with the Spire in the middle to be able to hide around. We shall see what they want to play. Control has played out very differently than the rest of the maps lately, so it's always a big guessing game going into it. But you'd have to imagine that there still is going to be a dive focus for Philadelphia unless they're forced off of it. Sato's Winston is just miles ahead of his other tanks, in my opinion, and it's almost always been that way. So he's always much better when he's able to play the Winston at a high level. Right now, San Francisco has Smurf on Sigma, but they haven't left spawn, so who knows just yet.
Yeah, there's no way he's going to play Sigma. I think he's just messing around. TP's forward. Mirror Comps looks like it. Rascal and Genji, Ivy on Genji, Hisu and Striker. Yep,
perfect mirrors.
Oh, that was unlucky. Shock couldn't quite get to the mid pack quick enough. Well, no, I guess not the mid pack, the jump pack pack. Yep, I said that correctly. That was great. I like the I was going to say I really like the Sombra on this map specifically, because you can kind of hide away around these trees and then hack whoever kind of comes near you. Luckily enough, Smurf managed to get his bubble down before any meaningful damage was actually done. And the controlling of the high ground is going to be fairly important. Rascal's in a lot of trouble, but luckily enough, Fury is at no energy whatsoever. He's going to be a little bit more energized now as he gets a full bubble's worth of charge. Oh dear, that hack was good. Hisu hacking Choi and isolating in. However, Sato suffered the same fate, and now Smurf coming back in. 2 tanks dead for the side of the Fusion, and even a hack onto the onto the Genji too. He's not doing all too much. The Shock definitely with a nice little position over the Fusion now.
Oh, missed
missed
the shotgun shurikens. Like, usually you think like you're getting hacked as Genji, that like, oh, it's fine, I'll right click. Missed them all. Hisu just tiptoeing through the raindrops there, gets the hack, gets the kill. That's huge.
Nanobate available for both teams almost. Twilight a little bit behind Alarm currently. Nano, oh, the EMP, oh, that would have been so sick, but the EMP actually landed on 3 people on the Fusion. 5 hacked for the Shock. Choi going low, somehow kept alive, and Nano boost on Fury to keep him in the fight. No Nano Blade available for the Fusion now, as they only have Ivy with the ult. Rascal's approaching his. So this is going to be Shock's big turnaround ultimate.
Well, they don't really need to turn anything around. They're in full control here, and you know, Oasis is a map that the fights aren't over until they're fully over. Here comes Blade.
Nano Blade. Oh, there's nothing you can do. Run away. Oh, that was unfortunate. And now they can just sit in control. Control is such a fickle mistress as well, because if you control the point first, you're in such a good position where you force the enemy team to use ults. You force them to push into you, so you not only gain a lot more ult charge, but the time is not of essence to you. You can sit on the point, you can stall out with things like Primal Rage, and then you force the enemy team into using ults. We're now up to 70% for the Shock, and there's only really been about 1 fight, Hex.
Yeah. And Oasis feels like the worst offender in that regard.
Because there's so many places you can hide, which is rather annoying. There is a Graviton Surge and a Rally on top as well. Choi doesn't stand a chance. He did get naded. So he was able to keep himself alive for at least a little bit longer there, and Twilight was just pumping him full of heals, but it wasn't to be. Contesting the point is the name of the game now for the Shock. There's the Blade in the back. Ivy is going so low. 1, 2, 3 slashes to take out Twilight, but they end up trading after this small engagement. And now Funny Astro taking a couple of kills of his own. They end up finding the reflip, but Shock, they're not out of this just yet. They pop the Rally to get back into this fight, but now Fusion in that nice situation where they can just kind of sit back and relax, wait for Sato to come back. But no, they're going to step off the point. Okay, the EMP came out and only hit one as well. Hisu managing to score Rascal and then get him with a manual hack too. He's going to get hacked manually and then stunned and then not even go down. The Shock just pumping so many resources into Rascal, and now they're in OT. They have to stick on the point and luckily managed to get the flip hex.
Fury's at 100%, and that's just a eraser paint tool right there. Click on them, they're out of the game. San Francisco, it's because that they have won fights 2v4 before that those things are going to happen. The only big mistake I point towards is probably the rally at the end where Violet throws it in and they try to get back in there. I don't mind Smurf just making sure they get up to 99%. Philadelphia stepping off the point. It's not that big of a deal. It's a pet peeve of mine, but it didn't end up hurting them.
Look at the ults though. Oh my god, that was a big EMP. Alarm, Funny Astro and Fury get EMP'd and the Nanoblade comes in. That's 3 kills for Rascal. I'd be trying to like level this one out and he's doing a good job of it as well. Choi and Violet end up going down. The Genji 1v1 on the payload, on the point. Striker's back. Oh, it's cheating from the Shock. The 2v1 in the end. Disrespected. The 1v1. OT now here for the Shock as it ticks down. Fusion can come back to this maybe. They managed to touch the point just in time and they've got ults to spare as well. Alarm jumping over to the Moira to make sure he can keep his team alive in this upcoming fight.
Yeah, this one is not over by any means right now. Philadelphia with an enormous ultimate advantage.
That's a nice little hack as well onto the Winston Smurf, scouring for cover. The Graviton Surge in the back as well. Yep, Sado and Ivy find the 2 in there, and Rascal gets cleaned up as well. Fusion eventually take control once more.
Well, that's great for Philadelphia as well, because they use 2 tank ultimates, but look, their damage are still holding on to it. A nice late stagger as Alarm gives him the Colin Robinson treatment. Energy Vampire towards the grave. Philadelphia is going to be able to come back with this because they have an EMP, they have a Blade, and now we're nearing final fight here. What does San Francisco have to be able to fight this back? It may have to come up to the Rally, and Rally should keep them alive long enough to be able to match an EMP and a Blade, but you don't want to be in position where you get caught out first.
Oh, that's a good EMP as well. The Blade's going to come out too. Smurf, Choi, Violet hacked. Smurf, Violet dead. And Choi's going to get chased down as well by Astro. Finds a nice little boot kill. And now Shock in a dangerous situation where they need to be able to touch the point. I don't think they're going to be able to. Almost a complete team wipe. Alarm just kind of spraying around, see if he can find anybody sneaking. There you go. There's Striker. Manages to get the OT as well. So coming back in with the Primal Rage is still not lost for the Shock. Smurfin can continually touch here on the point. There is the Coalescence to try and turn the tides. However, Striker with the EMP is going to be pretty big. Fury, Sado, Ivy hacked, and the Fury ends up getting taken out. And now Rascal with the Blaze, and the Rally at his back. Rascal finds 3 yet again. Alarm finds him, but it doesn't matter at all, because Twilight's now on the point with Violet. He's going to have Nano for this fight as well. Somehow, some way, the Shock come back in what looks such a winnable fight for the Fusion. Striker ended up touching. They triggered OT. They sent Smurf in on the Winston, who was then able to leap in and out with the Primal Rage and continue contesting, and Shock take the round.
I very rarely call fights over and be wrong about it, but it's San Francisco. I just have to tell myself, like, when are you going to learn this lesson, old man? It's San Francisco. It's not over till it's over, till the bell rings, till the whatever you want to call it, whatever old adage you want to use. San Francisco always finds a way. My goodness, I can't believe they're able to pull stuff like that off. 1-0 on Oasis, tied up in the series final of the Countdown Cup between these 2 behemoths. And it looks like we have a mirror match yet again.
Oh yeah. Isu has been slept, mind you. Should be okay. Gonna be too far behind on ult charge. Yeah, Strike, you might want to throw that to safety just to make sure if you do get in danger. Philadelphia Fusion yet again managed to take Mega Pack control, so they can just play around that, or at least have Sado just kind of sit on it. It's a lot less pressure on the healers, of course. Joy Oven ends up going down. You can see the pressure they're exerting. It's so tough when the enemy team have like a 3rd source of healing from these hacked Mega Packs. Of course, they respawn a lot quicker as well, so it's worth keeping in mind. Fusion end up capping the point first, and I still sleep again on Ivy, but you're good.
That's fine.
I will seal you.
San Francisco can come back in with an EMP. They're a little bit faster on the EMP charges. Hisu is getting hurt again, so has to bail out.
Oh. Oh, Strike is dead. Are they going to be able to follow this up? I don't think they can. Oh, the kill onto Alarm is going to be good, though. He got isolated in the side. I kind of take it back. There's the blade from Ivy straight into the back line. Twilight got hacked as well, so couldn't even grenade himself. He couldn't sleep. Ivy finds 2, and it being both the supports as well. Shock have to play this one a little bit more scarce. Smurf takes out Fury, but still no heals on the point. Doesn't matter. Smurf literally doesn't care. He rips through 2 people. Striker's going to come back as well, and they find the flip.
Yeah, Smurf ends up winning out in that monkey knife fight. Gorgeous George ain't so gorgeous no more, and he's able to get another 2 on top of it. San Francisco now in control, counting up, and as is Oasis, it's such a hard map to flip back. Garden, City Center. I mean, University is the easiest one to be able to retake control of because everything's wide out in the open.
Oh my god. No, if that actually killed, I would have been pretty annoyed if I was the Shock. There's the EMP. Nano available. I don't think they're going to need it now. Rascal has already gone down. They're even going to rally in. In fact, matched rallies. Graviton Surge on the brig. Goodbye, Choi. Goodbye, Violent. Eventually, he's still getting kept alive, but the kills are very much in the side of the Fusion. Yeah, they're anti, but it doesn't matter. They got too much pressure in the front. Again, rather backwards and forwards is Gardens. Another flip. Fusion 40% now in building.
Yeah, this stage is a microcosm of the series thus far, just completely back and forth. Whoever gets a little bit more value out of their ultimate seems to win the fight, and it's always the last 2 people alive, seemingly so. San Francisco on the comeback is going to have a Nano and a Blade. They might want to wait and just guarantee a fight win by waiting for Striker to get in the mix. Choi Hyobin gets anti, Choi Hyobin gets healed.
Twilight's in trouble, but he's going to be okay. Oh no! He did miss 1 shot on Violet there. I'm not sure if that would actually mattered. I think you just go again. If you don't have your Brig, it looks kind of disastrous, but of course they are the Shock after all, so they can just go when they want. They have EMP, they have Blade. There's the Blade in the back. Alarm's dead. Oh, nice translocated there from Hisu to get out of there just in time, but Choi manages to Graviton Surge Sado, so he couldn't do anything. Hisu with the translocator out of the fight, and an EMP as well on top for Striker. I'm not entirely sure if that was even necessary from the Shock.
It 100% was not. And I think part of this is just a byproduct of having people who don't necessarily play a ton of Sombra being on the Sombra. And it's so much of like, I don't want to die with it. What if we needed that EMP? There is a little bit of nerves when you have to play this new hero. Sombra plays differently than almost everything else. It's hard to find a comparable hero that's like, oh, I guess the tracking's like Tracer, but it's like the mobility and everything. The timings are all very different. So just getting a hang of it is extremely difficult. Philadelphia, 88%, needs to win 1 more solid fight. They've got EMP to do it, but not
Twilight,
really
what are you doing? Oh my god, Twilight! The flanking bio grenade instantly killing off both supports. That is how you carry on the Ana right there. Oh, Smurf, he's going to see Sado straight out the front door. He leaps away. That was a very risky flank from Twilight, but hey, if it's anybody that's going to do it, it's definitely him. Shock now, 10% away from securing the map and match point in the series, Hex.
Well, and San Francisco is going to have the best stall-out ultimates possible, even if they do end up losing people.
He's going to do it again! Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, Twilight? Another beautiful sleep into a bio grenade so they couldn't block it with a shield. Smurf now primal raging near their spawn. This is the Shock that we like to see. Just all attitude, no fuss. OT's going to tick down. It's only Sado on the point. He's going to get flammed. Victory Blade from the Rascal, and Shock are going to find themselves with match point in the series 3-2 as we go on to our next one.
Oh, I think you nailed it, man. All gas and no brakes. That's a San Francisco Shock style for you. I mean, when you get hit with a nade like that from behind, I think you just you don't even know what to think. You don't even know how to react to it because it's just like, what the hell, man? Where did that come from? Twilight going for enormous, huge plays. Striker did a pretty good job on the Sombra there. He had some misplays, some not great, but he only died twice with staying alive. That's the best way to build up EMPs. Got EMP every 1 minute 25. 20 enemies EMP'd from Striker there, so it seems like he might be their answer when they want to run a Genji and Sombra. And then, of course, if it all else fails, you just let Striker try to, carry on the Tracer, which he's very capable of. As close as it can be, 41 eliminations to 39 eliminations. San Francisco Shock edging it out by 2, and they will put themselves on match point, Jack.
It's ultimate disrespect. I want to touch on that before we quickly go to break, but you don't expect it. You're like, no way would an Ana go on a flank right now.
You shouldn't expect it.
And then Twilight just does it twice in a row. You're like, okay, they did it once, there's no way again, surely not. And then, yeah, happens twice. Like, yeah, you've got to start checking your flanks if Twilight's on the Ana, that is for sure. Match point for Shocks. Do not go anywhere. We got watch point once again to break down the action. We're going to jump to it. We'll see you in a bit.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Xfinity, the preferred internet provider of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back to another game break presented by Cheez It Grooves. It's Reinforced here, back with Costa as our analyst and Matt Mr. X as our companion, just helping us out here for the time being. Also, you know, blessing us with
best
his beautiful
analyst,
beer.
best analyst.
Best analyst?
Yeah, they promoted me recently.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah, the best
So
analyst.
the desk is a promotion?
No. I've been promoted everywhere.
Promoted
Worldwide
everywhere.
promotion, yeah.
He's chief of most things. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Matt's beautiful beer. We're here to talk about the details and the gameplay going down. The San Francisco Shock has taken a 3-2 lead over the Philadelphia Fusion. And we've seen a lot more dive compositions than we really expected. I mean, we were talking about Ans really popping off, but since then, we've seen Ans back on the Sombra as well as some more Genji. We kick things off on Temple of Anubis as our third map. And we got some first point holds, Costa. How did it really go down?
Yeah, apparently everyone just decided to be really, really good at defense, but their offense is severely lacking. We had we had Rascal come in, and it seems to be whenever Rascal comes into the lineup, they seem to be getting the wins, and that's what's like most impressive. I think they can actually take it to the Philadelphia Fusion, playing their own game with the Sombra, Genji, Winston style, and it's awesome to see. But I definitely think that the Philadelphia Fusion are falling short here and there. I really think they should be in the lead here, but it's been so close.
Any map that the Shock have tried to play Striker Ons in some kind of combination with whether it be Ashe Tracer, they try and play like Tracer Sombra, they've made no ground. This is really Rascal coming in and making his impact on the game, playing May played a little bit on King's Row, he's played Genji from there on out. I feel like he's made a huge impact on this series, and it's funny because they're playing the style that we were told or we thought that they couldn't play. That's all we talked about for the last few weeks, that they couldn't play this.
Exactly, like a lot of people asked for Rascal to play Genji in the Summer Showdown, but instead we didn't see it. I mean, that was still a really close series against Paris Eternal back then, but now we see the true potential of Rascal on this Genji. He came back in for Oasis, and they really just, closed things out very impressively on the back of some nice biotic grenades as well from Twilight's Ana. What does the Fusion do here to adapt to Rascal's Genji? Do we need to see a change of some kind, or do you just try to play your own game in this scenario, Matt?
Scott, tell me how you feel, but I don't feel they need to adapt. I feel like Philly has been really close to winning. Like, all the maps that they've ended up losing, they've been really close and competitive in all of those. They've come down to maybe one fight and some ultimate usage here and there. We see the Genji head-to-head on your guys' screen, where now Ivy's been pretty decent as well on the Genji throughout this series. It's not like he's underperformed. I think both of these teams have just played really close in terms of the mirror. I wouldn't really change anything, although personally, I'd love to see Carpe get in there, see if he could.
Come on, quit it.
I don't.
You need a little bit of boost.
I don't know if it's the play. I think these rounds have been so close. It honestly could have gone either way, and it's been the clutch factor of the San Francisco Shock that's really pulled it out. Those flank nades by the Ana on Twilight is just absolutely ridiculous. Rascal's had a couple of really clutch blades, especially on Anubis, to really pull them over the edge. I think Philly can easily win these maps. They got to be clutch, and I never thought I'd say Philly needs to be more clutch.
So we have the map pick coming in, actually, and it is going to be Numbani that we're heading to next. No substitutions, Matt, so Rascal is still in the mix. So I think we all can agree on the fact that we're going to see more of these dive compositions, perhaps.
It's a commitment to the dive for Philly, because we saw them just do this on Numbani against Paris, and it's a commitment from the Shock to say, we now think we can do this better than you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Shock are currently in the lead, 3 maps to 2, and we're heading to Numbani. So, sending it over to our casters, Jaws and Hex.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch.
Welcome back. Match point for the Shock currently in the Countdown Cup Grand Finals. And I'm here with Hex. And Hex, oh man, the last couple of maps have just been ridiculous. Like the Shock, of course, they never give up. Literally never give up. There's not a point where they're down one player. They're like, well, no, we're just going to reset. Never, ever, ever. And they end up just going back in and winning it. I think a lot of this has been down to the fact that they can flex in literally anybody onto their roster. We've seen a little bit of Arn to start the series. We're seeing Rascal and Striker stay in as we go on to Numbani. This is a map which is going to be dive again. I would be very surprised if people start to run double shield, considering Sato and Smurfs especially, his Winston play has just been on another world coming into this series. Even just in this tournament as well. I think the Winstons just help both these teams immensely.
Well, also give Choi Hyobin a ton of credit as well during that, too, because if not for these bubbles and the great follow-up that Choi has, then Smurf is going to be in a lot of trouble. And, yeah, I mean, here you see that the maps that already got us here has been back and forth and ping and pong, and so San Francisco is on match point, and you know, it's so funny to think about San Francisco, and this is all in degrees, right? But this might be San Francisco's worst meta, just as far as the damage dealers go, because they don't have like this god tier Genji as far as Sparkle goes. Not to put any disrespect on Rascal's name, but they spread him pretty thin as far as learning all these heroes. Their Sombra play has not been stellar, except there's moments when it has, because they just have god tier players. But then you look at everybody else, and their support line is infallible. Like, they can do no wrong. There's not a meta that they can't run. The tank line has been insane, and when you want to run Reinhardt, sure, let's just bring in, Super off the bench, last year's MVP candidate, Roll Star Super. Oh, but we need a Lucio. Okay, well, why don't we bring in Moth, another MVP candidate, Roll Star last year. You just can't say enough about how well this roster is put together. I mean, the talent on their bench is like a top 5 team in North America right now. It's insanity how well they were put together. And if there's going to be any meta where a team's able to take them down, you would assume it is this one, but they have stepped up their play on the Genji and on the Sombra, and everything else is just rock solid for this squad.
There's not really much you can do to scout them, I feel, as well. You kind of know that everybody's kind of the best in their role, too. Just absurd. I'm so glad we're seeing Dive on defense. So glad.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's, well, even before Winston was really popular and where he is right now, Philadelphia would run Winston on Numbani. You always knew it. You always knew Philadelphia was running. You could take the nameplates off of the teams, and it's like, oh, okay, there's a Winston on defense when no one else is playing it. This is Philadelphia. Sato's playing Winston.
Ooh,
okay. So a cute little check.
Yeah, I think he was checking for the Sombra.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Just to make sure he's not doing any funny business. Oh, there.
Oh, there he is. Just picked the wrong side.
Hello, Isu. Okay, so same kind of comps for both teams. Mirroring again. No surprises here. And it's going to be all about really Striker setting up. Same with Hisu. Hisu's been able to get a lot of ult charge. Being on the defense, you're just going to naturally get that a little bit quicker. Nice bio grenade, though. Twilight and Rascal going a bright purple. We have to escape the chocolate factory rather soon. We're going to have to be a little bit careful. What the? Okay, that was interesting. I'm not entirely. I think that was a sleep and a normal dart deflected back into Choi. Whoops, daisy. There is 2 dicks now been acquired. And a third.
Are they going to touch?
They're not going to touch. Okay, well, you just don't touch. Okay, and guess what, Hex? It's Numbani, so point 2 just doesn't exist. Although it might do now, actually, because Rascal and Smurf have ended up going down. Normally on this map, we just, over the last tournament, you just don't see second. It's like half a fight, and then you just give it up, and you only fight third, and you have a 5-minute time bank on third. Like, that's just how it is. Although, I do
need
believe,
a pause, I think.
Yeah, they are going to call for a pause, so maybe something happened there, because that was very odd, the fact that Fusion just didn't touch, so
I mean, it was pretty bloodless. It was mostly just Sato went down. It was the only kill actually that San Francisco was able to take. It was just killing Sato, and meanwhile San Francisco had they lost 2 of their own on the swing back. So I didn't see how Sato went down. I think he might have gotten hacked and killed, but I'm not certain what the pause is. We are not privy to that information. But yeah, that was a really uneventful first point for Numbani. And yeah, you bring up a good point on second point that I think right now, like, the defense is in a good spot if you can hold this corner. That's like the best spot to hold on second, because then maybe you can come in and get another fight. But if you get pushed back to the bus, a lot of times that's going to be the only fight you get, and it's just tough for the defense to set up, because the high ground is almost like too far away to be advantageous for the defense, and a lot of times the Winston is just going to leap on you anyway from that point. So that's why seconds have been very, very offensive favored lately.
Looks like Funny Astro had a bit of a mouse issue, so we're just switching that out right now. You can see him kind of getting the new one all plugged in and whatever. So yeah, we should be back in the game momentarily. So yeah, I don't think it really cost them the point. I don't know exactly what happened, of course, but they should be ready in just a second. Oh, he's shaking his head. No, Astro, no, don't shake your head. No,
it's the wrong. It doesn't have.
It's the wrong mouse. No.
The hyperglide feet on it. You gotta go to the box that has mouse skates on it.
Maybe yeah. Maybe Sans his mouse like Arns does.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And the paper too. Although he's putting his headset back on, so it looks pretty promising. So okay, let's quickly talk about the defense again, or like how it's going to transpire here. I said Numbani doesn't really. The second point doesn't exist. Hex. Let's be real with ourselves here. The semi-finals, it's like, well, we're playing Numbani. Oh, it looks like we're playing point A and point C because point B you just don't touch at all. There's like half a fight, and if you lose 2 people, you're like, okay, we're going to give it up, whatever. We'll just fight in point C because it's way more defensible and we're way more almost practiced at that point, right? Because I can imagine the same kind of thing happens in scrims. So, however, this time around, with Shock losing 2 people early, Fusion going to be able to hold this really close. It depends how Striker's going to set up with an EMP, though.
Yeah, obviously holding corners a little bit better when you have double shield, but you're still going to put the Winston over here. The EMP hits 4.
Good. They still managed to get the Nano off, though, and in fact, Choi's just going to walk on forward. He has Nano. Sado's going to have Nano as well, but he's trapped in a small room. Nice little sleep onto Sado, too. Fury ends up going down. Perfect reactive Nano boost from Twilight. Now Sado's in trouble. They just walk at him. This Fusion was split between the small room and the bus area, and Sado received almost no heals because the Llama and Funny Astro, I believe they were LOS'd. They're going to fall, and, well, there you go. Point 2, it's going to get capped, and there's nothing really their defense can do about it.
Well, with the notion is without a shield tank that you want to post your Winston there so that he can get the cleaver on the corner. You give him the bubble. He's got his own, fish dome to drop down as well. But San Francisco just decided to just walk in with their Brigida and say, no, you stay in this room. We're not even going to bother trying to kill you. Just stay in here, and the rest of our team's going to walk forward. San Francisco didn't have to use anything except Nano. Nothing.
Look at the ult. Ooh, there's the EMP. There's the blade. The bio grenade was good as well. Twilight does end up going down, but look at Rascal dive on these walls. However, without healing, he's going to be in a sorry situation. He doesn't end up going down, but he distracted Astro and Alarm for the entirety of that. Okay, well, Violet's emoting this spawn. That's very cool. He's just waiting for the heals, but they managed to cap the point because there was no heals in the front line for Fusion. So there you go, point 2 over, and now the 5-minute hold for Fusion.
They also forced out the rally too, which is absolutely enormous. There's no defensive ultimates now for the Philadelphia Fusion, and they're just now starting to get some ultimates online. For Philadelphia, it's got to be the EMP Blade, but Choi Hyobin's got grab for that.
Beautiful little bubble there. Stopping Twilight instantly going down. They also pop Rally. Grab available. Nano Blade on the other side, though. They have the EMP as well. There's the Blade. There's the Nano straight at the back, deflecting. Oh, you got hacked too. Wait, the bubbles are still going to save him. Under sleep as well. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, Twilight? They managed to bubble the Genji after he got hacked so he couldn't kill him. The dash didn't kill him either, and then Twilight hits the nade and the sleep to follow up. The San Francisco Shock are going to be able to push this payload in now. Hisu with the late EMP. The Fusion are scattered. The Shock with a 4-minute, 20-second time bank for the next round, even if they need to go there as they cap this 3rd point.
What? Just what? Twilight is going off.
This is ridiculous.
Anna Mains rejoice because this has been a treat all day watching these god-tier Ana players hit amazing shots. The self-preservation is insane. And 2 of the Philadelphia Fusion's 4 kills came on just garbage time cleanup after first point was captured. And then I think they got, they got Rascal once when he overextended. That was it. No defense on Numbani.
So exactly what happens here, the Genji gets bubbled after he's hacked because he was deflecting to stop that damage going through, and then Twilight hits the sleep as Ivy dashed. He 180, hit the sleep, then hit the nade. The damage was enough. He killed him off. That was the best peeling of a Nano Blade I think I've ever seen. That was unbelievable. Shock and... I said point 2 doesn't exist, and potentially a 5-minute hold because we've seen it before. We saw it in the last series. But with a 4-minute time bank, 4 and a bit minutes, that's absurd. That's actually absurd.
Yeah. We're going to have to see where that one ranks as far as fastest Numbanis of all time, because it did not really get slowed down too much. A small hiccup after first point capture. Now Philadelphia Fusion must complete the map, and San Francisco...
Oh, no, the cheese. Oh, that was a really nice scout in there from Hisu. Almost got the hack off as well.
He almost got slept.
Yeah, that would have been a disaster. Of course, sleep being a small animation, of course, you can use it to interrupt things, ultimates being one of them, but it interrupt recalls as well. So if you sleep someone, the damage you can do in that time that actually getting back up could normally be quite deadly, especially if you've got a Genji and a Winston jumping on you as well. So keep this in mind.
Well, initially they were able to push Rascal off the high ground, but he got a ton of heals, so the Winston follow-up was not able to push him back to spawn. And Philadelphia going to go for the pincer move. Well, didn't wait for his team to go up there and hope that Shock could engage.
Personal bubble has already been used, actually, from the Shock, yeah, so Choi has to be playing rather safe. Astro ends up going down. Notice it will sleep on the return there, but they do trade him for Smurf. Nabani, one of the best maps really for defenders because the spawn point is fairly close, so Fusion know time is of the essence currently. They're going to nano Furies, they send him forward. Sado is still pretty low, but you don't want to get in front of Fury, not when he has this much charge and a nano. This Graviton Surge is coming online rather shortly. Striker's going to go down as well.
Nah, they're not fighting. Smurf respawned. He was the first one to die in that. He took one look at the glowing Fury.
That was so nice. Nope. Everybody's sleeping. They all sleep, taking a little nap together in the corner. They haven't quite captured the point yet, but it will be there momentarily. There you go. And the
San Francisco was
the back line. Everybody is really low, by the way. Imagine if Winston had resets. That would be ridiculous. Joey ends up earning his own life on the bubble there, but here we go. Point 2 in Nabani. It's going to go within a blink of an eye. Fusion are going to hold really far up with Astro being on the payload.
San Francisco was going to go in there if that sleep didn't happen. They were trying to send 2 on one side and waiting for the dive in to come from their tanks, who were just posturing right around the corner. Luckily, they got the sleep, and San Francisco unable to recontend. However, San Francisco has not wasted ultimates, so sometimes where the snowball can happen is that you dominate a team like Philadelphia just did on first point, and the other team doesn't have ultimates. That is not the case for San Francisco. We've got a full 6 loaded on each side. Time to enter Q City here, see who comes out on top. Really, for me, it's always about which Sombra gets a better EMP.
Oh, the EMP, that was perfectly placed on Choi. He's going to get purpled as well, but the armor stacking up from the Shock. Choi was the target that they wanted to leap on, but they just couldn't get to him. He got EMP'd, he got naded, was sub 100 HP, and still unable to take him down. One dash will kill him there. Rascal, he's just waiting for the cooldown. Goodbye. And now the Shocker turning this second point into more than just one fight, and they still finding picks as well.
Well, Shock might just hold this door.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the payload's going to trickle back as well, Hex. So they're gaining not only a lot of time, they're burning on not only a lot of time, but a lot of progress is being lost here by the Philadelphia Fusion.
Okay, well, Philadelphia is going to have their tank ultimates because during that last engagement, Choi did have to use his Graviton to be able to save his own life. The Nanoblade comes out, though, from San Francisco.
Yeah, but it's going to get bubbled, and yep, goodbye. Rascal's not going to do all too much. Graviton turned on the side. They managed to catch Choi. Now it's a 5v6. Primal Rage pop from Smurf, but he's already pretty low. And Fury doing a good job of protecting his back line. The target is Rascal. They managed to find it, and Smurf getting out of there rather fast. He had the Primal Rage, but not a lot of life left. Now the Philadelphia Fusion can eventually claim control of the payload again, but still a lot of time actually burnt off their time bank. I think this is the longest second point we've had in quite a while.
Well, it's the biggest benefit of San Francisco going first and finishing the map the way they did, because then your mindset switches. You're not trying to beat the other team. You're not trying to win team fights necessarily. You are fighting the clock.
Oh, they EMP'd and got the payload. That is unfortunate for the Fusion. They definitely wanted to save that if they managed to secure the payload there on the second point. The Shocker are going to be more than happy with that, having an EMP of their own now. As Fusion tried to hold aggressively.
Well, the Shocker in this scenario that Philadelphia found themselves in earlier, where they just need a play on defense. Something has to give here. Big EMP. It's 2.
Fury's the target. You can see his health bar dwindling, and he's purple. Alarm trying to keep everybody alive, though, with the nade available too. It's pretty big, but no, Smurf ends his life rather shortly after. Smurf does end up going down, and a rally actually forward from the Fusion is going to be good news. And now Choi is caught off guard. Like, he's on the Mega Room, which is really nice for your self-sustain, but he's cut off from the rest of his team. regardless of that EMP being good from the Shock, the Fusion were able to just navigate around it.
San Francisco's all over the place right now.
I mean, their mindset has changed, like you said, Hex. Ideally, they just needed this one play. Speaking about plays, Stardo's going to do just that, but he turns into an ult bank. He gets hacked in the Primal Rage, and now has to play rather safe. A good sleep onto Choi stops the aggression. However, they're just waiting for ults. The Fusion just need this EMP and the Nano Winston. They're going to Nano him first to create a little bit more space, but Alarm actually gets grabbed in the back. A nice little nade, but it is going to be worth it. Rascal comes in with a blade, gets a couple of resets, and that'll be, once again, the Fusion's offense thwarted.
I mean, San Francisco did such a great job of just putting a tourniquet on where everyone was positioned and stopping the bleeding there, because they were able to get Rascal out alive, and even Choi Hyobin, who was caught in no man's land, up kind of where Smurf is now, he was able to get to the top balcony, and the rest of San Francisco pushed far enough forward that he could drop down and rejoin the team, and then he was able to get the Graviton to shut down Alarm's aggression. Philadelphia with the EMP, Blade, Grav, Rally ready. Any sort of combination of those should win them the fight. It's going to be difficult for Striker to get a great deal of value out of this EMP unless Philadelphia all pushes forward at the same time. They're all in the same spot.
Oh no, the Primal Room. They do end up sending in the EMP though. Look at all those hacked people. However, they're able to scurry away on the stairs. Alarm is dead too, so the Fusion haven't got much healing left. They supplement that with a rally. The Ivy's going to go in with the blade, straight to the backline, but Snurf takes him out. Spawn advantage for the Shock as well. There was a lot of hacked people also, but the damage was not there. The healing was not there for the Fusion. They throw a whole bunch in on that fight, and now the Shock 1 minute and 25 seconds away, Hex, from taking the Countdown Cup.
Well, Philadelphia had this intermediate staging ground in low pack room, and all of a sudden they're all grouped together. The Primal comes in and it creates chaos, and then Striker gets an enormous EMP. The follow-up is there. Philadelphia has to burn ults just to try to stay alive. They have nothing of impact left. It is just going to be the Primal Rage up for them. Meanwhile, San Francisco nearing a Grav, nearing a Blade. Ivy in trouble. Below 1 minute, San Francisco trying to close out this tournament.
My heart's racing, and I bet theirs are as well. A one key hack here could be good, or maybe they wait for Rascal to Blade and then they hack him, stop him getting resets. But Shock, they've got Grav, they've got Blade. They're going to throw the Grav in first. There's the Blade, nade on top. Alarm, Ivy dead. Fury's going to follow as well. And now Philadelphia Fusion need to touch the payload. The Shock have thrown everything they have in last and still have more to go to. They're going to get Nano up. Smurf might have Primal Rage also. It's going to be up to Sado here to touch, but they got 25 seconds to do so.
Yeah, that's the play, is let Smurf go in, bubble him, heal him up, and then nano him afterwards, get the Primal off.
The Primal's going to be there. If they get the hack, it's going to be big. Still 10 seconds remaining. Rascal's getting bullied. The payload is being touched, so OT will be here in a moment. But Twilight still with the nano boost, like, this is really it. They're actually just going to nano Smurf. They isolate Fury, and he's dead. He's not available for the final fight. OT is here, but every single person from the Fusion are cut down. Ivy comes in with a blade, but killed off by Violet. The San Francisco Shock have done it. 2 championships in the monthly tournaments. The Countdown Cup is theirs for an organization with such a stacked lineup, just brimming, bursting with talent. And championship-winning players, you expect nothing less.
That's the San Francisco Shock that we know and love. The clock has struck midnight on the Countdown Cup, and the Shock are victorious. The Orange Crush comes through again, and they play forward. They don't even let you get through. Smurf has been playing out of his mind. You know, he might just be smurfing. He might be in a secret underground Overwatch League that we don't know of, which is all everyone's 5,000 and 6,000 SR, because that's how good he looks against the Philadelphia Fusion. Philadelphia, it's a heartbreaker. They got close. They played San Francisco close. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Seems like they're always second place, going back to the inaugural Overwatch League season where they were runners-up in the grand finals. Just never seemed to be able to get over that hump. They played the composition well. The meta maybe doesn't suit their best players as Carpe rode the bench all series. But the San Francisco Shock team, we talk about the big three, and I mention it every time we cast a Shock. Yes, there's a big three, and there's a gulf between them and everyone else, but it still seems that San Francisco, they still have a gulf between them and everybody else in the North American region.
There's so much talent on the roster, and thinking about it too, the fact that they didn't really play a whole lot of Genji to start off this kind of Genji meta with also. Like, they've been playing Striker on the Tracer, and it's good to see Rascal back in, one of the most flexible players you could really ask for. Him playing Genji to such a high level also. Twilight has been definitely a member to watch out for. He always really has been. He's going to be your Xfinity player of the match as well. And the Shock, they take home yet another trophy. That's 2 out of the 3 tournaments they've won as well. Melee, they got beaten in the semis as well to Paris, who was the eventual winners of the Summer Showdown. But this one, they clutch it 4-2 in as the scoreline. And they claim a lot of extra wins and a little bit of juicy prize money as well, Hex. I mean, this is the last tournament before we go into near the end of the season. So, yeah, Shock. They look as good as ever, and it doesn't really seem there's anything stopping them, no matter the meta.
Yeah, I mean, we had to pivot to Twilight as player of the match. You know, we were looking at San Francisco, and it's always with San Francisco, you're like, I don't care, pick one. We were going to go maybe with Choi Hyobin. We're like, he plays every map. He's always in there for him, and he's always very, very good. It's an easy, safe pick. And then Oasis came around, and you watch Twilight on these flanks, and you're like, how does he even get there? With stones that big, how is he able to get on that flank? That is crazy. He hits these giant nades. He hits a sleep dart to close it out, and then just his constant clutch play. The plays on Numbani with the sleep darts. Like, he looked like the better Ana against Alarm, who's like a front-runner MVP candidate. Nothing against Alarm, but it's like the team around Twilight, of course, former Vancouver, having one of the better years of the former Vancouver Titans members. Of course, Hoxel having a pretty nice time himself, but Twilight gets to get himself a little, qualifier championship here. Can't say enough about everybody on this team. It's just... It's absurd. The way this roster is built and the way that they can adapt to every meta, it's gotten to the point right now where it is not a meta that exists that San Francisco can't play. San Francisco Shock is the meta.
They continue to be one of the best teams to ever grace Overwatch, and coming into the the games we're going to have before the playoffs, I can't see any way that they don't once again land themselves in the finals, Hex. Like, they are infallible almost. And Philadelphia Fusion and the Paris Eternal definitely up there in the top 3, but I think it's safe to say currently Shock, at least in the NA region, they are the best team currently.
Yeah, and it's mostly because, like, I mentioned that it might be the least favorable meta for them, because they don't have, like, a guy who's known for their Sombra. Like, I don't know, there's so many players that came in from contenders that were just known as great Sombra players. San Francisco doesn't necessarily have that. They don't have a Genji on the level of a Kevster or a Sparkle. Rascal has his moments, but when you have the core in place and the work ethic and the mentality that San Francisco has, when you have the best overall support line in the entire league, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise. Like, I don't know what more you would want out of the 3 supports that play for San Francisco. When you have a tank line that is playing out of this world, and then even when you don't run Winston, you just bring it, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to bring Super in on Rhine. What a downgrade. It covers up some of the maybe small mistakes that the damage dealers are going to make as they learn and progress around learning these new heroes, learning this new meta. There's nothing I think that could throw San Francisco Shock off. They have such a deep roster and such a great work ethic, and they just grind out heroes, and all of a sudden Super's playing Genji at a passable level. Like, what is happening?
We were kind of waiting for Super to jump on the Zen as well, or just any support, to be fair, but I think it was good that they kept Twilight in, to be honest with you. Right, we're going to jump over to a small interview, though. We've got Super with Johnny.
Yes, I'm here with Super. Now another title added to the list. Countdown Cup champion. Super, how does it feel, man?
It feels pretty good. I think we had some questions going into it as a team. There were some things we were still kind of unsure of that we're having trouble with in scrims, stuff like that. But, we were glad to be able to clean it up when it counts in the match. So
let's actually talk about that, of course, because you did fall in the Summer Showdown to the Paris Eternal in the semi-final, and now you come back in the Countdown Cup and you win the whole thing. Does this title mean more to you than perhaps some of the other ones you have? How does it feel?
I think it just goes to show, I mean, this has kind of been, Shock's theme for a long time, where I think we take a loss and then we usually are quick to learn from it, and we know how to make the changes to the mistakes that we made. And I think you saw that again here today, where we had troubles in the summer showdown, and we cleaned up those problems, and we made it better here today.
Yeah, it feels like you're a very determined team. Like when you're set on winning, it's very hard to take you down. And we saw some adjustments coming through in the finals, whereas earlier in the tournament, we saw you play some more double shield, perhaps adjusting to the Ashe, etc. But now we saw more Genji down the line. Was that like a spontaneous decision throughout the series, or were you prepared to play this much Genji? How did the finals evolve in terms of compositions for the team?
Yeah, I mean, there was a bunch of things that we kind of changed up last minute. Like we didn't really plan on actually running me on the Ryan on King's Row, for example, but we saw what Philly did in their match earlier and noticed that they ran a lot of rush comps, and we just felt that our rush and our Ryan comps were better than theirs. So we kind of just did that because we knew we practiced it before, and it's just we kind of make those adjustments as we see fit.
Yeah, and I mean, you did end up winning that King's Row, so that was a great adjustment. But then as well, we saw Rascal playing way more Genji, which we haven't really seen too much of Rascal's Genji. We've seen part of it, right? What does Rascal bring on that Genji to the team that made this finals unique?
Well, I feel like when we tried me on Genji and Tayo on Genji, different people on Genji, we felt that sometimes our aggressive nature was a little bit maybe too off for the style that we wanted to play as a team. Yeah. So Rascal was able to come in and maybe refine that a little more, considering he has had more experience on the hero, especially in the past with like Apex and stuff like that. So we had him go in, and he was on a roll today. So we didn't want to take him out of the comfort zone.
All right, well, there you have it. 2 more titles added throughout the season, and we haven't even, we're not even at the season playoffs yet. So pretty good season thus far. I'm going to go let you celebrate with your team. What are the celebrations like? Are there any special foods, cake, Korean barbecue? What are we doing?
I don't know. I mean, everything's kind of closed down, but, okay. Maybe like
order
a burger or something.
Yeah,
like a burger or something. I don't know.
Whatever works best for you. Well, congratulations, Super, on the Countdown Cup win. All right, so that's the Overwatch League concluded for today, but we got another Watchpoint post show coming up with me, Costa, and Matt. So thank you for joining me, Super. Stay tuned for after the break. We got more analysis coming your way.